So with that, it's now 9:01 and let's call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. And Linda, thank you for the flag. Okay. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Everyone has received the minutes. Are there any edits or changes to the minutes as previously distributed?
Nope.
Okay. Seeing, hearing no changes to the minutes, the minutes are accepted as distributed. Next item on the agenda is BNF Chair opening remarks. I do have some remarks. I want to welcome everybody to this hybrid meeting today. We have a beautiful day here in Ocean Pines. The doors are open. The sun is shining. Good. Hard to believe it's a January day. This meeting is being recorded, so everyone is aware of that. John and his staff have presented to us a bottoms-up budget in the books that we've all received. We received books. Board members have received all their books, so they all have them. This is the first edition, a first pass at the budget presented by the staff. Our job here at BNF today is to review the budget as presented by the staff, and John's team will present detail for each section as we go through. We're to ask questions and make recommendations. That's our limitation of our role here, is to ask questions, understand the budget, and make recommendations that we feel necessary to the board and to the GM. We will prepare detailed minutes like we've done in the past. Previously, we've done pretty extensive detailed minutes of what we've done in the 2.5 days of this review. We've also presented an executive summary in the past. We'll likely do that as well this year. I think that's a very good tool going forward as the board takes the next step in basically reviewing the budget at their end following this review. We did meet a little bit on the budget on 12/28, where the fire department presented. So we also had a chance to visit with the fire department and ask our questions. Those will be part of the minutes that will be coming out here shortly. Maybe tonight I'll get those minutes out to everyone for that first pass of that review. So as chair, I'd like people to request the floor of me. You can do it through a hands up if you're online, or you can raise your hand here. But I'll basically take those calls to participate and call on people to participate as we go forward. We do have board members here. We do have board members online. Board members are also encouraged to participate and ask questions that they have pertaining to the detailed sections that we're discussing at the moment. Finally, on behalf of BNF, we really want to thank John and his team and Steve and others for preparing this very detailed bottoms-up kind of budget. It's a lot of effort, a lot of time, and we appreciate the effort that they do to put that together for this review to happen. So thank you very much, guys. So with that, that's all the comments that I have. John, I'll turn it over to you for any budget presentation comments you want to make.
Thank you, Dick. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Just want to add to what Dick said, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about the budget high overview, which I do every year. But basically, our team, my team, we have basically everything in this budget throughout the year. We have vetted and discussed with Budget and Finance. I truly believe as a committee, they really represent the true spirit of what our governing documents intended to have a committee, and what we did throughout the year. And I think that will help us for today. So with that, I just want to talk about the summary that we did post with the budget to try to tie everything high level. We're going to hear over the course of the next 3 days. So the fiscal year 2023-24 preliminary proposed budget summary. The proposed budget of $875 is a reduction of $21. However, I just want to point out, it's not the intent, nor was our specific intent, to specifically lower the assessment. As as Dick mentioned, it's a bottoms-up calculation. So when everything was calculated, quantified, that's where we showed up. There is a true-up component. I've spoken about that. I will speak about that more over the 3 days, as well as Steve will. But there is this true-up component where we're trying to reflect the realized favorability that we have fortunately over the last couple of years. So the $21 from the prior year for non-waterfront lots. The main component of this decrease was the true-up component, reflecting realized favorability from the prior year and as reported during the monthly GM reports. The true-up component balances out the assessment to reflect current results. So I hear about this favorability, everybody's saying, well, what about that? Well, it's built into the budget. We built it in, and you will see that. You'll see the mechanics of it. We have vetted it. We will answer all questions on it.
John, can I hold your second?
Sure, yeah.
Brian, if you
Yes, sir.
if you get rid of your video, I think everybody can see the room here.
Okay,
Turn your video off.
better?
I thought we'd be able to see the whole room here, but I
I
guess.
think Josh should be able to designate,
It won't show up
Yes.
in the room if you're recording that room. If that makes sense.
Gosh,
You'll be able to see everybody else at home, but not your own thing.
no, you'll get to
You guys
it.
hear me?
Thank you. The operational departments and amenities saw increases in payroll and benefits, reflecting a statutory wage increase, wage inflation, and the continued increased cost of benefits. The amenities led by golf and basically across the board continue to show organic growth in revenue, but also reflect price increases as recommended by the Strategic Planning Committee's guidance. So baked in the budget, there are increases that the team, each department head recommended, that I recommended, that we receive guidance from strategic planning. We will go through the rates. We will show you where it is. We will go through everything. But the bottom line, with all the inflation and everything, in general, the rates that we had for the increases are lower than inflation, as well as lower than some of the increased costs that we received. Within the assessment is a continued increase in infrastructure spending for roads, drainage, mailboxes, deferred maintenance, and new capital projects and initiatives. Aquatics reflects an increase in the budget that is mainly to fund the attempt to fill open lifeguard positions. During the aquatics session, there is a lot that I do want to talk about, and Kathleen, we understand that the pools were closed, certain pools were closed last year. We will articulate what we put in the budget, obviously from a cost side, to try to address that. But it is something I would like to talk about with budget and finance and everybody else. And we'll talk about that during there. There are bold decisions, and bold decisions are relative, and it's relative depending on who you're talking to and what we're looking at. But by a bold decision, there have been a lot of sacred cows, a lot of silos or whatever over the years that somehow we just leave it the same, or, oh, we can't touch that because then everybody's going to. So we did look at that. And the biggest bold decision, a little separate from that category, obviously, was the pipeliners, which was tremendous savings. So they're thinking out of the box, a different way to do something. So the bold decision we made for the pipelining process for our major drainage pipes has delivered operational savings, and we believe has had a strong positive impact on drainage. We will continue this unprecedented maintenance project on this proposed budget. Reallocation of prior efficiencies have been allocated to the police department to continue to fund the take-home car program. The proposed budget also includes an increase in the police department 401k benefit contribution and increased salary adjustments, all to help retain and recruit officers. So we did put through some adjustments for the police just a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of months ago. That's obviously baked into this year's numbers, and then we'll continue next year along with the other increases. The strategic plan we implemented in 2019 and updated this year continues to show positive results. The addition of new hires has strengthened an already constructive team. We continue to review the DMA reserve replacements and calculate the required funding limits as set by the Budget and Finance Committee and the board. And Linda will take us all through that. The bulkhead differential remains at 615. We have also sourced material ourselves to keep bulkhead replacement costs down. We recommended and received approval from the board to enter into a competitive bid contract, which also produced savings similar to what we did last year. And that's how we were able to keep the price at 615. Okay, Dick, that's all I have.
Okay, thanks, John. Thanks for the opening summary, high-level summary. All right, so the first item on the agenda is general administration, general manager's office, and IT. And Steve, that's your lead.
So just looking at the agenda, I know the next one after me is 11:30. I can't imagine it's taking a couple hours on these areas, but Josh, be on standby. But I guess the first one we'll go to is general administration, which is tab 2.
Okay.
And I think everybody on the committee and in the room is familiar with the administration cost center, profit center. That's where we capture all the assessments. So you can see the assessment revenue that's incoming within here based on the assessment that we have proposed at 875. The reserve contribution that comes out, it's basically mechanics to transfer out. You see that as a separate line coming out of administration. I'll get into the specifics there when we get to reserves, because basically it's coming out there, going into the reserves. So we'll see that further in this section. And then to keep going down the page, we have interest charges. Then we have a surplus transfer. We'll get into later as well, the retained earnings, basically the prior year retained earnings of what we're utilizing, but we're proposing to utilize $650,000, which is the equivalent of what we utilized last year from our
Prior year.
prior year
retained earnings.
Yes. So this is basically apples to apples in terms of last year's budget to the proposed budget with that. Right-of-way fees, we are keeping flat to our budget. You can see that we came in a little bit heavier than that in 2022. I think that's a good conservative estimate. That's where Comcast, as well as our MediaCom right-of-way fees get deposited into, and we recognize the revenue on that line item. Interest income is the trend, obviously, is upward. I do think we'll realize close to $200,000 this year. So I feel pretty good with the number for $200,000 that we have in the budget. Now, keep in mind, that's really not going to affect the assessment. It's really just going to beef up your reserves because we allocate that according to your reserve balance. So most of that money ends up going to your replacement reserve, but this is the accounting for the incoming income.
At the 195, right?
The 200 interest income.
Oh, I'm sorry, the wrong.
Sorry, I went to the next line. The 195 is the right of way, which is the Comcast and the media.
So Steve, tell me, the interest charge is up above 418. What is that? 50?
That's when your assessments, your delinquents
Delinquents, okay.
that we incur. Yes. Okay. All right. So we have, that's all our revenues, 6.4 million in revenues on admin.
And could you talk a little bit about miscellaneous, what that is again? And that's going up?
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Well, from a budget standpoint, it's actually down 10,000.
Up from
The estimate probably should be bumped up maybe a little bit. We get a lot of co-op fees in there from our utility companies. Is one main source of revenue. But there's a catch-all there. If we sell equipment, sometimes it'll go in there, things like that.
Okay.
Okay, for expenditures, accounting fees, pretty consistent. We have UHY, I think is the firm's name now. They came in with a bid a couple years ago. We had minimal escalation in that contract. As you can see there with the proposed of $40,000, they do the 990 or help us with the 990 and file it for us, the property taxes as well as the audit. And we have a minimal computer supply at the admin level.
On accounting fees, was there like some startup stuff happening this year why it's more than?
Yeah, I noticed that while I was paging through the sheet here last couple minutes. So there's an accrual So there's actually an accrual that I have to reverse for this year. That's why your estimate's a little bit higher than it probably should be. But $40,000 is is a good number for next year. Okay. Legal fees, it's variable, varies from year to year based on our utilization. $140,000 is consistent with what we put in the budget last year. And that's what we went with. Yeah, we have some credit card fees and admin that were not budgeted in other areas. You're going to see credit card fees throughout each of the organizations. These primarily are associated with the membership office and the assessment office.
And somebody who is a member paying their assessment with a credit card, they're paying a premium for that. Paying a surcharge for that, right?
Yes, there is a convenience fee, but this is the credit card fee that comes back to us that we have to pay. That's based on,
But I guess what I'm saying is we're recovering this.
We're
fee
recovering
from
it.
Additional revenues.
that is correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so $195,000 in contract services. If you turn the page, it'll show you how to get to that 195,900. About 50%, a little bit less than 50% is your ERP system, North Star. Just like everything else in the world today, there's been escalation with inflation. North Star was no exception. So you see the $90,000 there. You have the Comcast charges at each of the locations that we budgeted centrally. We made the decision a few years ago to budget a lot of the IT costs centrally within admin. That's why it's reflected upon here. The latest board meeting, I guess the December board meeting, we had the approval of the Rubex e-file cabinet contract, $9,500. That's going to make us, I guess, redundant on our storage, that we have all our files throughout the organization. It's also going to give us abilities to e-sign, workflow. There's a lot of good initiatives. Printing costs are going to be reduced, potentially storage space within the admin building that we're trying to clean up now with the renovation. So that's definitely a good initiative, but you see the $9,500 there. And then we have custodial services and then other computer services. Keith can elaborate a little bit more on that. I think Microsoft Exchange is probably your biggest one there, right, Keith?
Microsoft, Adobe,
AirSpring, that's correct. And I forgot about that one, yes. And then I guess we can just continue on this schedule since we're open to it, but our bad debt expense, last year we lowered it significantly to $50,000. I feel like we're good there as well. I feel like our reserve balance is in good shape. We have board expenses that are pretty traditional: employee lunch, volunteer appreciation party, orientation, and then miscellaneous, which includes, you can see some of the items included within. You can see the trend on the board expenses right around 25 and 22. So that's why I left it at that. We had a little less in previous years. So I feel like that's a good conservative number. Election referendum, I left it at 35, which, yeah, it does have a referendum number in there. Yeah, I guess that's a conservative budget as well by leaving it in there. And then insurance, you're going to see that spread amongst all the different categories or all the different tabs that we go through. This is your administrative burden of insurance that aren't reflective of like buildings and such. Like, you're going to see Yacht Club that have their own insurance. You're going to see all the different amenities have their own insurance, but these are all the ones that are administratively related. And you can see
Ghost insurance?
Guessing the wind's picking up.
Sure. But we did budget overall 5% increase across the board. Medical insurance is going to be your number one variable expense. We don't know what we're going to end up with. I put 10% in for that for each of the areas, but this is your property, this is your liability, this is your 5% increase for $25,000. But then you can see the different breakdowns. You got some buyback, you got your director's insurance, you got your umbrella policy, crime, cyber liability, and marine, those different pieces that go into it. We incorporate and roll up and all that good stuff. Taxes, personal property, you can see, that's going to be what we just filed in the summertime. Basically, per the personal property tax forms, that's a calculation, and that should be a good number as well. It's 78,000.
So like in the past, your insurance quotes come in later in the year, correct? Is that the?
Yeah, that's correct. I'm getting emails today.
I was gonna say, all right to go. Thank you. So our broker gave you that 5% as an estimate, or is that our,
Yeah, they wouldn't specifically commit to
to anything?
They give me a range and said, property's trending upward. You guys, we're in pretty good shape in terms of our claims. The claims affects it, obviously, and then the market affects it. There's a lot of catastrophic type events that have occurred, flooding being number one. So flood insurance has definitely been on the way up. But from a liability standpoint, they said, that they would recommend an increase of 5 to 10% at least.
And then all your medical, that is in each department then, none of the medicals here.
Correct.
Thank you.
That's in at 10% for everybody.
You done?
Steve, the assessments are down 191,000. Is that kind of like the $20 times the number of lots?
Yeah, so you'll see that basically we used it, 896 to 871. So that's your difference between, or I'm sorry, 875, 896 to 875. So that's your 21.
Okay, and I know you mentioned credit cards, but would that increase or why would it stay exactly the same?
Well, we're expecting to get this about the same amount of assessments, same amount, so that's your big number.
And contingency, what is that 40,000?
Oh, that's you want to talk to that number a little bit, the pool that we have dedicated? That's on our salary walk.
So that's a 40,000
Yeah,
for 1%.
yeah. So that's a 1% salary.
So what the 40,000 is what Steve's pointing out, where he put it is, and I talked about this in budget and finance meeting. So we budgeted, we talked about a 3% increase, merit increase. We also put in there 1% to continue mark to market for key employees or wherever we feel that there's a lot of competition out there in the workplace, as well as we've been hiring, when we hire new people, we seem to have to hire them at a higher price. So it's more for that. It's more for mark to market key employees, and it's like Merit Plus. I don't want to use the word promotions, but that could fall into that also.
Okay, depreciation is exactly the same.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was just getting ready to mention that since we didn't touch on that. So I just kept it in there. I need to get it doesn't really affect us from the assessment standpoint because we do the reserve study.
Right.
So that determines our contribution, but we need to put the new numbers in there for depreciation for this year.
Which will,
Wind buyback insurance, is that a specific? How many wind buyback insurance? Is that insurance that when trees blow down or?
It's basically an additional policy that we have to get, and it's primarily related to Ocean City, the beach club. So that, there's a lot.
It's fortunate we got it.
Yeah.
It's good that we got it, that we were able to get it.
Good.
so it's additional hurricane wind kind of insurance.
Yeah, it's hard.
For the beach club.
There's a lot of risk with because it's an ocean city with the wind.
There was a lot of discussion on that a couple of years ago.
You can imagine if that's what we have to pay for the beach club, what other properties along Ocean City are paying for similar kind of insurance. Wow.
Being right there on the ocean.
And the medical insurance, do employees pay a portion of it or they do? Okay.
Yeah, that's, what is it?
Yeah, it's roughly 80-20. So there definitely, there's a burden on the employee with any increases and whatnot.
Good.
Okay.
You're going down the
Um,
details here? Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess we hit them mostly on the second page. The legal fees, the credit cards, the contract services, what I went to the other one for. Bad debts I touched on, $50,000. We're in good shape, I think. It's been a great story from 2020 onward. And that's a, testament to our AR department, Ruth Ann's department of making sure that we are current there and recovering our delinquent, working with Lurch to make sure that we recoup our money. The 4,000 you questioned, the 35 I touched on, the insurance I touched on, and the taxes. I think we're pretty good. Yeah.
Let me, Steve, thank you. I'm just going to jump in on something on the receivables. And, I've been doing this for a long time, and there's a lot of money that goes through receivables, tremendous amount of money. And when you look at that and you see how much is involved, there's a lot of responsibility there. There's a lot of accountability there. And when you have somebody that is in total control there, it's good for the association. It's certainly good for Steve as well as myself. So look, all our departments, I want to recognize and everybody, but I just somehow over the years, the receivables kind of just gets taken for granted. I just want to make sure everybody knows the outstanding job that team does.
Yeah.
And if there's a lot of money that goes through there, a lot of transactions and a lot of institutional. That's
Greater than 98% collection rate.
Oh, yeah, throw that up there. What's that collection rate? Say that, Leo? 98.
98, close to 99, I believe.
That's huge. Okay.
All right.
Good job.
And, the third sheet in there will show you the history of the rates. That shows up in a lot of areas, but you can see the 875 that's proposed and versus 96 and how that affects the different categories, lots. As John mentioned, proposing to stay the same for the water differential.
Okay. Good job.
Okay,
Any further questions on this topic? You want to move to another topic, right?
Yeah, he's ready.
Any further questions from anybody on general administration before Steve moves on? Okay. Ready to roll?
all right. You want to do general manager's office, Linda?
This is tab.
This is
Tab 3. Okay, moving on, general manager's office, payroll increase, it's a standard 3% to 288,270 payroll. We did put in some overtime due to the administrative assistant. So there is overtime compared to last year. Payroll costs, as Steve mentioned, the payroll costs are going up. So that was put in at 58,207. Employees, we kept the same at 500. Training, we did put in the same amount at 3,500.
So I just, that's not just the general manager's.
No, that's,
No.
no.
A bunch of text messages later. George?
On the payroll cost, our payroll is up 16%, but payroll costs looks like they're going up like 65%.
Insurance.
That's
an additional.
And all that includes the health coverage and all that.
Yeah, there's an additional head in there, basically is what it is.
Okay.
But yeah.
So I guess that we raise a good point, George. As we go through each section, you're going to see disparities like that for payroll costs and payroll. And when you compare current year to budget, if there was a vacancy or an overage in a department in the current year, you're gonna have a variance because you're not 100% to 100%.
Right.
So, which is why we always had that salary walk kind of thing. And I don't know when
You'll get it.
is that's in here somewhere or will be?
We will present that, yes.
And truly that ties, because you're basically have your full-time equivalents. You have your base, and then you have your new full-time equivalents. So you know what you're growing by head count. Then you have your percent increase, whether it's 3 or 1%, 2%, whatever. It lets you see that salary overall is growing in an understandable way versus trying to reconcile each of these line items. And likewise with benefits, I guess. You'll see if you have benefits.
Yeah, I don't have it in the walk, but I do have it as a internal schedule. So you'll see $100,000.
So we shouldn't, I don't want to deter asking questions as we go through, but you're going to see percentages that are going to be 60,
They are all over.
8% or 7%, it's going to be all over the place.
It is all over the place.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
Okay, that is the wages and benefits. Moving on to service and supplies. Computer supplies, we're lowered to 1,000. Contract services, we lowered to 2,500. Cleaning supplies, we lowered to 200 just because of COVID going away. Gas and oil, we've raised it to the price of gas, 2,500. Postage, we lowered just due to the previous years, seems to be no postage in the general manager's office. Printing, nothing. And supplies, we did increase to 1,500. Moving on to utilities, electricity was raised to 4,000. Trash removal stayed the same at 300. Telephone did increase to 4,800 due to the fact of an employee with a new phone. Water and sewer, 700, again, due to the inflation cost.
Can I ask a question on the gas and oil? We have an estimate of 4,100 and our budget for next year is only going to be 2,500.
She's in there.
2023 estimate is 4,100 and we have a proposal in the budget of 2,500.
Just we were allowing for the cost of the gas going up.
Yeah, but it's lower.
Again, it's low. It's 2,000 this year. It's 2,500. We have just one vehicle in the general manager's office being used now.
Oh, okay. So it's because of vehicles. Then.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you.
There's more vehicles this year than.
Yes. Okay, moving on to other costs, dues and subscriptions. We stayed at 575 and insurance increased to 2,816. The payroll costs and the detail are on the following page.
And obviously there are increases for the different individuals in there, but there's more FTEs this year than last year
Right, correct.
to some fraction or whatever. So there is a difference there. It's just not, there are more, and obviously somewhere else there's less of an FTE. So I just want to point that out, right?
Right.
Dick, you got it? So that's part of that increase.
The detail page is on the second page and that confers with the front page I just described. And the third page as well, select the budget detail confers with the budget sheet.
I have a third page.
Yeah, they don't have the payroll page.
Okay,
Yeah.
never mind. Skip that.
All right, well, it looks like when you compare the overall costs, other than the full-time equivalents growing there, the payroll costs, all the other costs are kind of up and down by hundreds of dollars from current year forecast. So it's right in line with how things are running this year. Most of the details.
And then let me just add, which doesn't show up there is there's a lot more responsibility, a lot more of that, of customer service and management coming out of that office now compared to in the past. So that's all in there. And that's another reason for some of that cost increase. We've expanded what we do in that office with the addition of Linda and Michelle Ross. Okay. All right. Okay.
All right.
Good job, Lynn.
So next tab is finance. Now, of course, as I explain every year, it's finance membership. So Ruth Ann's group, the front desk, IT, Keith, Howard, that services, services us across OPA, and human resources is budgeted in here as well. So it's not just their finance salaries, of course. The transfer fees is your primary revenue source here. We increased that a little bit last year. Propose a slight increase again this year. So that's your more or less your miscellaneous revenue.
Transfer fees.
Pretty transfers.
Property transfers, yeah. Ruth Ann's been trying to do some things with merchandise at the front desk, and that's where we built in a little bit of money for some sales. We did some pretty good sales with the beach towels that we had.
I didn't know that. Beach towels, huh?
Yeah, and nice
They're really
color.
good, so please go up there. I believe she has some type of special because they're really good.
That's just the job I always do. Kinds of different colors. So that's your revenues, $21,000 net revenues. Payroll's your primary resource here. That's where you're going to see your increase. You'll see it on, like we said, on the salary walk as well. But we got our Mark, our new accounting manager, on board, so he's in there, of course. And then we have Nikki, our accountant, Geraldine, in accounts payable, and then of course Ruth Ann and her front desk and accounts receivable membership. And so outside of payroll, we have, I think, done well, and even with inflation, to try to minimize these expenses as best we can. Service supplies, we still have been able, like I said, I think we are going to see some things fall out as a result of Rublex, that we're going to see printing costs being saved, which goes in hand with paper, as well as the ink, of course, in the printers. Of course, we do a lot of that in admin right now. So I feel good budgeting, right around where we were in 2023, but maybe some upside there as well.
So that's kind of a record, also a record retention kind of process going. So is there a record retention guru, or is that
Me?
we're looking at?
No, I work with obviously our accounting firm and our legal counsel and experts internally. We all come together with what our recommended retentions are, but yeah, exactly. We'll be able to program the system to purge things after the retention, deadlines have hit, in order to minimize storage, minimize risk, all that good stuff. So, yep, 100%.
Well, that's obviously, that's an important process, and it's good to have a good software tool to manage your way through that. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. So, nothing extraordinary there. It's going to be your postage. We're still always going to have that because we do send out the bills, and that's pretty much going to be through routine and our delinquent notices and things like that. But like I said, I think overall we're doing a good job in managing those costs. And the only other piece is your insurance and utilities.
What about me?
I'll tell myself.
So under services, supplies, there's a lot of line items that are not being budgeted. Are you consolidating into a couple of other lines here? Is that what's happening here? Some of the other things are not being budgeted in detail, but are consolidated into a category?
Yeah, so a couple of those things. The printing piece is probably a miss. The cleaning supplies, yes, we are just going to consolidate, like you said. But some of the smaller items, like we the employee ads. That is correct. I consolidated them from a budget standpoint, correct?
Okay, okay.
But he keeps it tight and they keep a tight lid on it, on his spend.
Yeah, I mean, if you have $600 and $500 and $184 with expenses,
Right, especially with timing from one year to the other.
that's,
So I mean, if you go to the second sheet you guys have, it does show the contract services breakout. Yeah, no, the biggest piece of contracted services are ADP costs. HRIS is the additional add-on that ADP has for the human resources. So that's something that we added on last year and continue to try to enhance.
that's an HR module.
That's correct.
She already did. You done? You talk about a little storage and stuff. You save in paper and file. You save the square footage.
Yeah.
Good job.
I
All right, great job.
I know one thing, I'll go back to my previous life, that we were late in the game getting into HR software, HR tools. We did a lot of paper stuff. Do we feel like we are where we need to be in our HR software and tools?
I think we have the tools, or we will have the tools once Rublex comes on board in combination with this. But we're not there yet, or we need to work out better workflows and try to minimize the paper. I think once the renovation's done in admin and everybody gets back in place, I think we've gotten rid of a lot of paper in the process, reduce the square footage of storage, and
Exactly.
Does North Star do some of that?
North Star allows us to scan for certain things that you can index to for like invoices. So we've already done accounts payable. I mean, that's all a scanning process, and we're trying to do it for journal entries, so it's a piece of North Star, a piece of Rublex, a piece of HRIS that kind of gives us that full piece.
Is the HRIS the one with ADP system? So you're using the ADP HR, okay.
Yeah, they gave us a really good deal. So, I mean, you can see it's only a few $1,000s to add on.
And it integrates with payroll very well.
Yeah, we use them for the 401k now because it was a census when I came on board. And then we integrated the 401k with payroll, which saves us tons of efficiencies there too.
Absolutely, yeah. Great. Any other questions?
On the telephone, Steve, it's down like $3,700. $3,000 on the telephone bill. And I noticed in some of the others, the telephone bill is down. Do we have a better contract with
So,
telephone or something there?
yeah, where's John O'Connor behind me? So years ago, when I was on budget and finance, and we always looked, and telephone bills were astronomical. But and there's a lot of different initiatives we have going, and Keith, and there's probably others, I'll let Steve jump in or whatever. But they're looking at all the phone lines and jump in, Keith, tell them what you do.
Two big things have been on, and one of the biggest lines that we use, and we've got a lot of. In addition, we've switched major carrier from Verizon to a reseller called Brent Telecommunications, which is essentially a bundler, and they save us a little bit of money. And I hope to save in a little bit more next year as well.
I noticed it's down in just everywhere. So I said, we have a new contract or something happened.
I get a combination of new centers and
Thank you.
Yeah, so look, there's initiatives all over the place. I've been talking about it for years. That's one example, how we're saving money, how the team's saving money. Steve talked to you about the other initiative these two gentlemen and others have. They've all been tasked to minimize the paper in there. You wouldn't believe how many file rooms and cabinets and square footage in that admin building that was tied up with paper that now is gone. And with all this other storage that we use in non-paper, that now we have more square footage for our employees as we do the renovation that you all know about, and try to make a better working environment in there. So there's initiatives all over the place. That's a big one. I want to give credit to John O'Connor behind me, who would point that out years ago, and then when I got in there, we had the team do it. So a lot of savings there over the years. You done?
Yeah.
Steve's good. Good job.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, Linda, where are we?
Well, public relations is on their way. Josh is driving
Physically coming here?
here. I just,
We'll take 5 and get a cup of coffee,
okay.
unless you wanted.
No, it's your meeting. I would, you know, I don't want to overwork them. So, yeah, whatever you say.
Yeah.
Well, we could, if you wanted to advance to another section, we could do that first, if that's what you're suggesting.
I could rip out CPI really quick.
Okay, we're gonna do CPI. Linda, gonna do CPI. That's great.
Tab 6.
Tab 6.
Tab 6.
Probably do them in order. Right.
That's what we have. What would they have?
Okay, Linda.
Okay, CPI, administrative fees. These are the fees that we get for, when we send a contractor out for grass cutting and leaf pickup and trash removal. We decreased that to 2,500 because people are actually complying. Inspection fees,
So you decrease it, but it's,
increased it.
your estimate for the year is 8.
It's lower, yeah.
That's accurate. You're really, you're increasing it.
Well, I'm decreasing it to the budget this year. Increasing it to what the estimate, yes, correct.
Your actual, it's really
Mhm.
moving up.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, if I look at all of them, inspection fees, filing fees, resale certificates, they're all moving up from the current year actual, some cases considerable.
If you file, which we'll cover on the tab, we are adding a new fee.
I did see that.
Yes. That will be addressed.
This is license fee?
It's, what we're adding is the business license fee, which has a filing fee of 20, a filing fee of 75. And then it'll be a yearly renewal of 50.
What is a business license then? Right?
A business license, it was recommended by the Architecture Review Committee, having a business license fee, so we know what contractors are operating in Ocean Pines. So it'll be beneficial to the contractors. They will be put on contractors lists, so people are aware of what contractors are licensed in Ocean Pines. And it benefits us as well, because we get a copy of their license.
Good idea.
There also is a proposed tree permit fee. Architecture Review Committee discussed this, that there was never a permit fee for the big thing in Ocean Pines, which is tree removal. So we did standardize 35 filing fee and an $80 inspection fee. So that's,
Do you expect to take 500 trees down, Lynn? Is that? what-
we're currently at 2,000 permits right now this year alone. Mhm.
So 2,000 trees?
I'll just try to be lower.
Is that, this may be a stupid question, but it's 35 per tree or 35 total?
It's a 35, it's gonna be $105 total fee. It's a $35 filing fee and $8 inspection
If
fee.
you're taking one tree down, it's the same as if you're
Yeah,
taking
mhm,
5
yes,
trees down.
mhm.
Okay.
It's just like one permit. It's just the same as any other thing, like we have an addition. If you do a deck, you only pay 130, and a shed at the same time, you only pay 135 filing fee and an $80 inspection.
And these are new fees.
Yes, there are new fees, yes. That answers your question to why the fees went up on the revenues.
Who does this work?
Who does this work?
Who does the inspections? Who?
Inspections, the CPI inspectors.
Resale certificates?
Oh, resale certificates, yes.
Does this cause a need for more inspectors?
At this time, no. We have 2 full-time inspectors, and we do have budgeted for a part-time inspector, which is not filled at this time. It might be in the future if the short-term rentals pass, that we will need another full-time inspector. short-term rental restrictions.
And so right now, before this, if I want to take a tree down, what am I doing now?
It's a no-cost permit.
But I still need a permit.
You still need a permit, yes.
Okay.
Okay, you had a question about resale?
Resale certificates is 450 improved. Does that mean people are, 450 of them?
People are moving out, but not at rapid speed as in previous years. If you notice, the monthly, figures that we're averaging probably a total around 10 a month. We were averaging around 20 a week last year and the year before. So it's decreasing rapidly. So.
Good.
For all of these rates here, I'm looking at the sheet now with the rates on it. Rates increasing or?
The only thing, no rates are increasing. The only changes are the addition of the business license and the tree removal permit.
How constant, over the years, have this been constant, these rates? Have they changed over the years?
The last change, I think, was in 2019.
Any reason why we're not looking at this similar? We look at inflationary for amenity fees and things like that?
It can be. I mean, it could be addressed. It's usually, the last time there was a committee that was signed, I think it was the Architectural Review Committee, worked with the board liaison on raising the fees.
You know how much they were raised in 2019?
I think each fee was raised $5. So the following fee was 30. It was raised to 35. Inspection fee, well, varies, was 75, went to 80.
I guess the only thing is that the costs associated with this are the cost of your labor. So whatever, right?
Yeah.
Whatever your labor increases, that's your cost increase. And
Mhm.
so, I don't know,
Are we saying
probably,
maybe we should look at that?
Huh?
Take a look at that?
I don't know. That raised the question. What do you think? So should these be adjusted periodically based on the increase in departments' costs? Labor and benefits and materials and so forth that will be adjusted, tweaked periodically? So it doesn't seem unreasonable, but they would be tweaked periodically.
So, yes, so we'll take that as guidance. We'll definitely look at it. We've discussed it. We'll take that as guidance if you give you, absolutely. We appreciate that guidance.
Okay. Okay, moving down to expenses, payroll decreased. That's most likely my salary is now in the general manager's department. It was more allocated to CPI last year. Payroll costs, or sorry, overtime decreased. Just due to the estimate for this year. Payroll costs decreased as well, just due to my salary going to the general manager's office. Employees, I did decrease that to 300. Moving on to computer supplies, lowered that to 550 due to the fact that the computer supplies are less this year. Legal fees, I did increase to 10,000. The courts are now reopened. We did get a few affidavits sent in, so that's why the estimate's a little higher. We are trying to get a few court dates set up for the next couple months. So hopefully we'll get some of the legal violations settled within the next few months. Uniforms, I did increase to $500 just because now we have 2 full-time allocated staff and CPI. Contract services, 13,250. That's a decrease just because people are complying. So we do not have to have them have a contractor to cut the grass. Cleaning supplies, we lowered that to $300. Gas and oil did increase to $4,000 just as previous because of the cost of gas going up. Postage, I did decrease just due to the estimate for this year. Supplies stayed the same at 2,800. Moving on to auto and truck, did decrease that to 200. The trucks are in pretty good shape. Electricity was lowered to 600 this year. Propane gas lowered to 1,600. Trash removal was increased to 600. Telephone increased to 5,000 just due to the estimate. And water and sewer increased to 300. And as Steve mentioned, insurance actually in here decreased to 2,880. On selected budget detail, there are the legal fees that coincide with the budget sheet, the contract services, gas and oil, supplies and insurance. And on the final sheet, you'll see the fee breakout with the new ones highlighted.
Number in here, Linda, that you have, is that just an estimated how many you have? And,
That's an estimate, yes.
okay.
Linda, let me just, when you're done.
Okay.
So if I could just jump in again, first of all, Linda, great job. Again, what I've been talking about on each department and everything, here's another example of we relocated FTEs and we've shifted some work around with the cross training and the support between Ruth Ann, new Michelle Ross and Linda, and being part of the admin building. We have backup, whether one's out, somebody else is there to jump in. Everybody's learning everybody else's positions. And even with finances, you see Linda gets more and more in that. And with Dan, we get efficiencies. We're able to do more, get into work that we haven't been able to get to in the past. Steve could attest to that. So again, these are all the efficiencies that add up to dollars at the end. And we have a way stronger team. And the institutional knowledge up there is probably the strongest it's ever been.
Okay. Any CPI questions?
So,
Okay. All right. So I guess we're waiting on Josh, I guess, right?
But we can do another one. You can jump in if you, unless you want to take that break.
That's all we do.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, Julie, you want to do it? Julie's here and I guess Julie is going to do the public relations.
Josh is saying he's fine.
that's fine.
So she's good.
That's fine.
So you're going
I'm
to,
in the car following along too. Can you
He
guys
said
hear me
he's
there?
listening on the phone. I can go ahead.
it's up to you if you want to do it.
To go-
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. Where would you like me to sit?
You can sit right here. You want to sit where I am, where the the mic is, that's fine.
Oh, it doesn't, whatever.
What number is,
Number 5.
Good morning.
All right.
I'm good, thank you. So I'll just hit, I mean, there aren't any major changes from what public relations and marketing has done in the past. So I'll just kind of hit some of the big numbers. And certainly if you have any questions, feel free. You know, under revenue, advertising sales is our driver for that. And advertising sales have continued to be pretty robust for the quarterly newsletter. Obviously, we don't have a crystal ball as to how those numbers might shape up in the future, but they've been steady. They've been good. You know, we're pretty much paying for the publication costs of our newsletter through our advertising sales. So I think that's a positive number and reflects, I think, the good work that we've been doing with the newsletter. So I'll skip down to under services and supplies, contract services. I'll just point that number out. We do contract with a graphic designer to do design work for our 6 publications, our 4 quarterly newsletters, and then the 2 activity guides. So that's kind of why that number is a little bit bigger, but we have a fantastic graphic designer who's been working with us for years. And that's what that number represents. Kind of the other big items under services and supplies are postage and printing. You know, we're kind of at the whims, well, in postage, obviously, we're at the whims of the government for that. But for printing, we're sort of at the whim of the print industry and paper costs. So we have looked at ways to sort of bring those costs down a little bit. So we definitely keep an eye on that. We stay in contact with our printers to see what options we have in terms of paper type, to see if we can keep those costs kind of in line. And we've been able to do that so far so that we're still,
Yeah.
be able to cover our expenses with our ad revenue.
Certainly looks like you're bringing down your printing from your budget and you're bringing down your printing from your current year forecast. So, yeah.
Yeah, correct. So we did, our printer our previous printer had difficulty sourcing the paper type that we used before. We went with a different printer, different paper type. And like I said, we continually sort of look at that and see if there are other ways we can trim. But yeah, that's worked out well for us so far. And then the other thing I'll point out is just sort of our big number under other costs, and that's promotion. And if you look in the budget details, you get a little bit more of a breakdown of that. Print advertising continues to be our big spend in terms of promotional costs. And that's reflective of the fact that we've really found that by and large, the target that we're interested in reaching is Ocean Pines residents. So we have lots of free options, obviously, to reach that. We have our website, we have social media, we have our weekly email. And while that's not completely free, we do pay a hosting fee to Constant Contact for sending out that email. But by and large, those are really minimal expenses. So the print advertising continues to be, I think effective for the market we're trying to reach. For the couple of amenities where we're really looking at reaching beyond Ocean Pines, I think primarily golf and banquet revenue for the venues in Ocean Pines, there are dollars targeting those amenities that go beyond Ocean Pines. So for example, the venues at Ocean Pines has continued to request Wedding Wire and The Knot, which is an online platform where prospective brides and grooms can kind of connect and plan their events. So the venues at Ocean Pines has continued to ask for that, and they find that effective marketing tool. So that's been included continually in our marketing mix. So those are kind of the highlights. Does anyone have any questions?
On the second page, the detail, you have Ocean Pines progress highlighted, 18 full page ads, 12 banners. Why is that is that new? Or?
We have advertised in the progress. I'm not sure why it's highlighted. It might have just been because that was kind of a different commitment to that advertising. We have been doing that.
I think it was a change that Josh sent over to me, to be honest with you. And
Okay.
he was highlighting that and it got in the binder that way. So
Well, there you go.
I think it's part of it.
I just noticed it was highlighted, so I just.
Yeah, I don't think it really means anything. I think it was
Okay.
I mean, we have been advertising in the progress, so.
The quarterly newsletters are great, but the website is also fantastic as far as keeping up to date with what's happening in information. Even the agenda for this meeting was, I saw it there before I saw it. Do we monitor? Do we know if more and more people are looking at the website, or is it becoming more of a accepted vehicle for Ocean Pines residents?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, we do have Google Analytics. And I think, one of the things that we've been able to do, and it makes, I think, promoting our events very easy from our end. Something happens, we plug it out, it's on the website. We can link to that on our website through social media. We can, link it on our Google business pages. So we really have kind of this multi-tiered approach to our marketing. We just have all these avenues, some of which are free, some of which we spend money on. We can just plug that information. So we're hitting audiences, whether it's print, whether it's, website, whether it's social media. And so it all kind of feeds back into the website. And that's usually the first place that we begin. So absolutely.
That's where the wealth of information. I know golf course has an app that you can have on your phone.
Yes.
Have you thought for having an Ocean Pines app for people just to click and quickly link into what's going on?
Well, I mean, we do have a mobile version. We know a lot of people are going to the website on their phone. So obviously it displays a little bit differently if you're looking at the website. I mean, I know, we've had some discussion, and that might be something that's tied in through North Star, the app. I mean, I don't think it's anything we're ready to roll out right now, but definitely it's something we've considered and looked at. And maybe soon to come.
Okay. I think we touched on everything except payroll. So is the head count's the same in the department as it was before?
Small but mighty.
I like that, yeah. Yeah, it looks like a lot of costs are going up and down throughout, but in many cases even down, so I have no further questions.
Yeah, me either.
Good job, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Drew.
Mhm.
So let me just, what section is that?
5.
So let me just, I actually did just receive a question. Let me just tie it together. First of all, that was excellent. The Public Relations and Marketing Department over the years has streamlined everything and looked at everything. But on there is marketing, there's promotions in public relations budget of somewhere around, how much is it? 40,000? It's 40,000, but then when you look in golf, there is 15,000. So I just want to explain that because that question will probably come up. We have had that over the years. The numbers were actually higher in the past, but the basic marketing that we do outside of golf and outside of the the golf packages. So if we're doing any type of work in the golf packages or anything like that, that money, that promotion is within the golf department. So a little different than everywhere else where we consolidate all the marketing for everything else in public relations. That number was bigger in the past, but we went through it, we reviewed it, and we broke it out, but we kept anything that had to do with golf packages in golf. We could certainly look at that now with Bob here, whatever, and Josh and Julie, we can shift it, reclass it back into, or put it into the public relations to keep it all consistent. I'm okay with that, but just want to distinguish the two numbers, why there is that. It's for those golf packages, which there is a promotion cost too.
John, maybe I didn't hear, I'm a little confused. So on the bottom, there's golf for 40K.
Right.
And then you say there's another 15K
Wait,
that's
just
in golf.
golf is the 40, that whole thing is for golf? The whole thing is for golf, the 40,000, or is that for everything?
So I don't see oh yeah.
It's all golf.
So the only thing that's in golf itself is the marketing packages.
That's what I said, but they're questioning the.
But I'm
40,000 golf.
looking at this. So I thought there is a golf piece in marketing, but I don't see it on the printout. Oh yeah, I see it. It's all the way down. Yeah, so there's a $40,000. That's all the advertising aspects.
It's well, that is golf.
40,000. Yeah.
Such as separate and apart from the public, from the, like Ocean Pines Progress or Bayside Gazette?
Correct.
Just, so where are we advertising again? Golf?
So I believe those costs are for Hooked on OC, which we've done, the golf course has done television advertising for that before. I think Hooked on OC, there was some advertising for that. That's my understanding, to capture some of those special, and I think that's kind of what I mentioned before. There are some marketing pieces specifically to try to attract people from out of the market. And my understanding is those are expenses for that.
So as a takeaway, let me look at that number. I didn't realize it was that high. I didn't see that down there. We'll come back to the committee.
Well, I guess my next question would be, is that consistent with what we're spending this year? My next
So
question.
the Hooked on OC that she mentioned, that actually is, it's my understanding with the new golf director that he is looking at those items, and he may be doing something different when the time comes. I have to get back to you on that number, the 40,000, get more detail. That's higher than what I thought, if it is all golf.
Okay. And the total on the pages for promotions, that said earlier, find it here, is basically, we're going to spend 81, we're budgeting 81, we budgeted 85, year to date's 50. The numbers but anyway, John will check the 40K more.
Yeah, we will get detail for that. Certainly look at that. I owe that to be enough. That number's,
Budget last year was 85 or 81. Saying this year.
but they want the detail. Okay, we'll get detail of the 40,000.
I understand you're right, John. There's still 15,000 under golf that's strictly for golf packages.
Correct. In the past, they wanted control of that, the golf team
Mhm.
wanted control of that versus marketing. And I was fine with that. Doesn't matter to me where it is. I would leave it in golf. Yeah, I would leave it there. It's true golf. I gotta look at that over 40,000.
Yeah.
We'll get the detail to this. Good question. I mean, Doug. All right. Doug had that question.
Okay. Any other public relation questions?
You were right, the highlighted part was because the progress was a lot changed. Yeah, pointing that out.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So now let's have a cup of coffee. All right, John, we're ready to, you're ready. We're ready to get back in the saddle.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to go to general maintenance.
Tab 7.
Just turn please. Okay, who's up next?
General maintenance.
I'm gonna do.
General maintenance tab 7.
Yes, okay, so we're gonna move to 1 o'clock, general maintenance, public works, bulkheads, Eddie and Nobi are here, and they are going to present. Thank you, Eddie, Nobi.
You want to
Oh, Linda.
read?
Hi, Linda. And Linda's gonna assist.
Okay, general maintenance payroll, increased to 329,799, compared to the actual for last year. Overtime has decreased to 7,500. Payroll costs have decreased as well to 116,757. Employees increased to 1,500. Training has increased to $500. And the bill labor has stayed the same. Moving on to uniform,
In general maintenance, are we working with the same number of heads we'll see, or is it, there are increases in full-time equivalents here? Or decreases
and payroll,
in just number of people, full-time equivalents?
no, they stayed the same.
But then why would payroll go up, but payroll costs go down?
Yeah, I think it's a mix because I mean, based on having new heads in there, some of them have insurance, some have
Right.
single insurance versus family insurance. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
as you have attrition,
Okay.
Yeah, that's not uncommon.
Okay. Moving on to uniforms, it stayed the same at 2,100. Contract services increased to 16,500. Cleaning supplies stayed the same at 700. Shop supplies increased to 2,000. Small tools increased to 1,000. Gas and oil stayed the same at 11,900. Postage stayed the same at 50, and supplies stayed the same at 4,500. Moving on to repairs and maintenance, auto and truck stayed the same at 1,500. The building repairs stayed the same at 220,000, sorry. And
Question on that?
sure.
The 103 we're estimating for 2022,
Mhm.
right? Now we're going to go to 220. Is there some stuff that was not done in 2022 that we're moving over to 23?
On the general maintenance, the building repairs, are we allowing anything?
Wait, I'm sorry, you might be, what was the question? Because I think I'm actually answering it.
Yeah, there's 103 is.
Yeah, so
So is some of it moving over to 20?
So, yeah, David, we're just talking about this. So we have a lot, and I'll let Eddie jump into it. I mentioned it in the board meetings and in the BNF. We have, because of timing and everything, some of this stuff is going to shift more. But that number how much we spend this year is definitely going to increase.
Okay.
We have a lot of scheduled projects already. It's not gonna wind up being 103.
But it also looks like we're gonna spend 191,000 in all the categories.
Right.
3 in general building repairs, but 191 in all categories.
Right.
We're budgeting 222 for next year.
So in the forecast, right, in the forecast, they broke out the detail for the budget. He just grouped it. So that's another point, is that there really isn't 100,000, which is what Dick is saying. It was not $100,000.
And so it's a 30,000 increase. Are you gonna just, you're gonna budget one line, is that what you're gonna do, Steve? Or-
Yeah, for simplicity's sake, I mean, we like to keep track of it from an actual standpoint
Understand.
as to where we spend it.
Right.
Yeah, the budget is, keep it simple.
Right, so if you look at that 190, like you said, Dick, compared to the 220, 221, and the projects that we have that we're gonna do in the spring, it's gonna pretty much equal out. Between bridge and other stuff.
Just an interesting question here. In 2021, we spent 428. Must have been some really big stuff going on there, man, huh?
I'm trying to think of, I remember we did a transfer. I think it's gotta relate to.
Just like building repairs is the big one, 252.
Right.
Admin.
We did a $250,000 transfer. I think it was expenses related to drainage, I believe.
So drainage or one we did.
I have to double check them.
Yeah. Whatever it was. I explained it in 21.
Yeah, so we're not growing that much. We're growing 30K for this year, but
Steve might be right. There also might be a transfer that we did back then to drainage or whatever. Let Steve look into it. But we'll get you the detail. We obviously reconciled it back then. Okay,
and these are all expense items. None of this is, this is all expenses, not reserve stuff, all expenses.
we have a little team that reviews that to ensure it, and we kind of have our guidelines, but everything, every expense, we do go through a check. It starts with Eddie and myself and Noby, and then Linda, and then Steve and Mark, and then they review it, but we do that on all expenses. Yeah.
Okay.
Small thing, but just under building repairs, you still have Turns Grill. Maybe we should.
Sorry?
We still have Turns Grill under building. Maybe you should change that to clubhouse. Small thing.
Attention to
Yep.
detail, Steve.
Maybe I'm a little in the weeds. I apologize.
It's all right. Oh, he's blaming me.
I'm sorry.
And he's.
Oh. Turns left us a while ago.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to utilities, electricity, was increased to 4,000, propane gas decreased to 2,400, trash removal increased to 900, telephone and decreased to 6,100, and water and sewer increased to 300. Going on to other costs, these subscriptions stayed at 50, insurance decreased to 7,117, and permits and licenses stayed the same at 500.
But this is an education question for me. So we're looking at 220. Do we have like open work orders for things that we want to do, or is it a combination of that and just money that's going to pop up that we need to do?
Yeah, but yeah, it's a little bit of both. We have work orders, we have projects that we haven't started yet. We have projects that we've ordered material for that hasn't come in yet, so that we have things on the list that need to be done.
So a good portion of this 220 is planned already.
Correct, yes. For this year.
Yeah, I think you're right. He's
Yeah,
talking about
yeah.
for this year.
Next year.
Yeah, I figured that. So the 220, he's saying we're gonna, like I said, that gap that's not in there, what we're planning to do in the spring that we ran out of time, whether it's the bridge and there's a few other items.
Yeah.
That'll bring us up somewhere around 220. For next year, we're basically looking at the same maintenance. I mean, if we can have stuff down at the beach club. We can have situations if something happens that could easily be $50,000, $70,000 if there's something like that. But yes, do I have the detail all the way down to, $1,000? No.
You've got history that says something
Exactly.
happened.
And then if we don't use it, I come to the board and we reallocate to drainage or something like that with permission from the board.
Okay.
No, that's a big one.
And
Is
Mel,
that in this? Is that in
That's
this?
public work.
That's probably. I'd like that. Let me. All right. Any other question on that? If not, if you just look back in 2019 and all the other years of history, I mean, and you look at what the numbers coming in for maintenance now, somewhere around 725. And you just take an overview of everything that's being done. There's nothing out there that anybody's telling me to specifically do or telling us that we're not doing. And you look at the cost today versus 2019, they've really been efficient. Okay. Compliments to the team.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. All right, Eddie. Oh, Linda.
okay, Public Works revenues, county roads, stayed same at 85,000. Moving on to expenses, payroll increased to 709,184. Overtime stayed the same at 20,000. Payroll costs decreased to 346,046. Employees stayed the same at 3,500. Training stayed the same at 350, and bill labor stayed the same at 20.
There's a really big uptick in payroll here. 77 from this year's forecast.
Yes.
So we got,
Go ahead, Steve, you do it.
so I mean, a lot of it has to do with open heads
Right.
this year.
Exactly.
Of course, there's the 3% built in there, as well as the 10% medical as well. So you got a piece of that, but
So last year we left open heads in. This year, is it the same situation? We're leaving open heads in?
So two pieces to that, and Steve and Eddie will validate that. So years ago, 3-4 years ago, what was it, 3 or 5 positions, the board told us not to include it in the budget because we hadn't been utilizing it. We kept the FTEs. Those FTEs we do not have in this budget. However, some open positions that are in addition to that this year, we're filling, or we plan on filling, and that is our goal to fill. And we believe with the turn in the economy that we will be able to fill. All right, so those FTEs from years ago, that's out. And that was FTEs that when I was on budget and finance, when they did the old turn grill and Eddie's team was doing the bulk of the work there, they had those FTEs. Then the GM the next year said he was going to utilize those FTEs for other work, which now we do in a different way. So those FTEs are not in there. I notice comes up each year. They're still not in here. In addition to that, there's some open positions this year that we're filling for next year.
So there are open positions in here that aren't in this year's money that are planned for next year.
Correct.
And when you lay it out in your walk, you'll see you'll see change in head counts, and then you'll see salary growth, right? At the budgeted salary amount.
right, right. We also, Eddie's salary is a little bit changed in terms of allocations as well. So she's not reflective on CPI. I'm just reading some comments here. I did confirm the $250,000 transfer was for pipes.
Yep, for pipes. Okay, so if everybody heard what Steve said, he confirmed that number from, what was that, 2021? We had that favorability in there. We had some pipe work and then the board approved. We came forward. I came forward, asked to do a transfer, and we utilized that money and spent it in drainage and pipes back in 2021.
County roads, well, why is that going down?
We don't control that. That's from what County Roads gives us. It's fluctuated, hasn't it, Steve? For the last-
Yeah, we're, yeah, catch up. Yeah, so I mean, we conservatively put that in there. We had the benefit of more money from the county. They give it to us quarterly. I think it's gonna actually work out to a little better than the $97,500 estimate that we have in there. So it'll be gravy. It'd probably be about $120,000 would be my latest guess.
But next year, only 85 is needed? Or is planned for?
So, Steve's estimating it's a variable. We can't, it's a variable based upon how much, happens or whatever. So he's being conservative there. I would take that route because you don't know.
What do you do?
It's what they budget to allocate to Ocean Ponds. It used to be more than that years ago, but
He wants to know the reason. What's the reason? He wants to know why we got.
why we get it from the county? I think it was an agreement, I don't know what years ago, on road turnover agreement. That's what started it all. It was original. We take over the roads and they pay us so much money to help maintain the roads since they are county roads. And then once the casino was built, there was an agreement with Ocean Ponds residents about the casino, part of the casino money coming to Ocean Ponds as well.
Okay.
But it sounds like it's a moving formula.
Yeah,
Under
I think the history was that they axed it pretty good. So there is a risk there that they can cut it, just like all state funds. Because I think it trickles down from the state then to the county. So that's why we left it pretty much flat each year at 85.
Even though
we got.
each year you beat it, yeah. It's like it. It sounds like you have maybe an opportunity to do something different there.
But I'm sorry, I was looking at something else. You're saying we should increase.
We beat our budget each year. So the trend has been.
So you feel we should go higher?
Well, you're closer to it than me, but maybe there's an opportunity to, with trends, maybe a little higher.
I'll await your guidance. I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Okay. I think I left off at services and supplies, computer supplies, were increased to 1,500. Equipment rental stayed the same at 7,000. Uniform stayed the same at 10,500. Contract services stayed the same at 48,000. Cleaning supplies increased to 1,500. Landscaping stayed the same at 73,250. Signs stayed the same at 16,500.
So on landscaping, any reason why we're not spending the full budget this year?
We haven't done the spring plan.
Still got spring, yeah. So all the spring stuff will hit it.
So our estimate is a little low here for the full year. The 54 is a little low for full year then. So we spent
73.
we spent 18,000 year to date.
You're only at 53 this year.
Forecasting 54, we're budgeting 73. So
That'll go, it'll depend, when we had COVID, goes back to 3 years ago at the beach club, if we do palm trees or not. If we hit the palm trees, if we decide to do palm trees a year, again, that's like a $20,000, $25,000 hit in palm trees.
Right, so when you're looking at the forecast for this year, Dick, and then you're saying, okay, why is that so much lower than the budget of 73? And why is the budget proposal higher? 73 is the range that we're in, that we believe we will do it. Odds are that 53 is going to be higher when he relooks at the forecast. Again, that's a forecast. We do plan on doing more than we've done even in the past. A lot of it was the COVID, a lot of it was the team. Where we're trying to do things, especially around the bridge and everywhere else, to do landscaping. I actually have one of the committees giving us guidance on some things they want us to see.
Okay.
Okay, shop supplies has increased to 15,000. Small tools increased to 2,250. Snow removal stayed the same at 10,000, and gas and oil stayed the same at 63,500. postage stayed the same at 100, and supplies were increased to 8,000.
You got enough money for gas and oil?
Compared to what the estimate's going to be, 62,890. They kept it the same at 63,500.
Did you say so? Okay.
So, and I appreciate, Dick, you're saying maybe if we need more money and everything, I mean, look, I'm not a commodities trader. The price is going down. We're trying to keep it, within the range that we believe we'll do. But yeah, that one could go either way. I mean, we're hoping that it's going to stay within the same price that we've been paying now. The one thing there is the snow removal, that 10,000, and this is where other items, I mean, depending on how many times it snows, that number, Eddie, could vary.
Oh, yeah, one snowstorm eats that up.
So anything
Right.
after that,
Yeah.
we could have a
When
situation.
you look at history, it sort of pans out over the years. Some years, if you have a bad year, we go through it. But then we have other years where we don't need any.
Absolutely. You gotta have something
When
for
we're
it.
gas and oil too, if, like John, if you want to remember, we cut back the fleet. So we don't have as many vehicles in our fleet either.
Okay,
Fuel.
right, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, sure.
On the detail page after this, we have 10,000 for tree removal. Is that still continuing on the golf course or is that
So that's tree removal in general.
general?
If I have a tree here that's like close to, or out of the bounds of the golf, we would need to utilize it. Yeah, I think I thought you were going to bring up about that 10,000 that was in the DMA study. We took that out
Oh, no.
on the guidance from this.
And also striping Ocean Parkway. Didn't we do some of that this year? Is that,
Did do
we
it.
didn't get it all done?
That's done this year.
It's all done?
Yep.
Okay, so we have that in, do we do that every year?
Yeah, we put it back in the budget again just because the last couple of years, we've gotten more complaints that it needs to be striped more often.
Okay.
Is there anything you can do differently? I mean, is there,
We went with a different contractor this year. It was a bigger commercial contractor out of Jersey, and they went with a thicker paint
Right,
with the reflective beads in it.
Right.
It seems to be holding up a lot better.
right. And that was the recommendation we received from many.
That's who the county uses.
Individuals, right?
Yeah.
The county uses it. And we've gotten a lot of positive feedback on it. Besides that striping, there is, there's arrows, there's other types of
Yeah.
striping or whatever that we're going to just continue doing. And if not, we'll allocate it somewhere near something else.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to repairs and maintenance, 20,000 increase, increase to 20,000 auto and truck. Drainage stayed the same, 175,000. Equipment stayed the same at 40,000, and roads and bridges stayed the same at 92,000. Electricity for utilities increased to 19,700. Gas decreased to 2,900. Trash removal increased to 77,400. That's due to the bold move of the leaf removal. And telephone decreased to 5,500. And water and sewer increased to 4,100.
Third one. Third one. 77. Okay, so we just want to talk to the committee about the leaf removal. I did bring it up. Eddie and I did a presentation to Budget and Finance a couple of months ago, 2 months ago, a month ago, on what exactly Public Works does for leaf removal. My understanding and what I've been told, what we have is that if you're a homeowner and you have a ditch, you rake the leaves out of the ditch, put it up near the road, and then they'll come in and they'll take care of that. That seems to have been, we get a lot of it where people are doing their entire yards, blowing it out into the road. And that's not the intent of it, and that's certainly not what we've budgeted for in the past. The other point is that Republic, it's already built into our costs, that Republic will pick up bags of leaves, and I think they're pretty proficient at it and do a very good job. So we are looking at this and we want to get approval for budget and finance, and I believe we got it last time, but I just want to check. We left it in there, but we believe there would be a savings that if we're not doing that, where we're basically taking care of all these leaves that are being blown out from the yards, we would have a savings here that we can reallocate to drainage or something else. So you want to jump in, and Eddie's got some fees and everything, a whole little plan on it that he's going to talk to you about.
We talked to you guys earlier about it, like John said, a couple weeks ago, and we had what our plans are to present to you guys to get your approval on, and of course, it'll have to go to the board as well. John asked us to work up in a staff meeting options of making revenue. Well, my department doesn't make much revenue. We're an expense group, as everybody knows. So we looked at what some of our biggest expenses are, and leaf disposal is one of our hugest expenses, the refuge. So what we came up with was an option is our public yard would be open, but we would do sort of like Worcester County does with the dump. You would buy a sticker, and whatever fee the board sees fit to put to that, that's what it would be. And that would allow you to come and use our yard when we're open in the spring for the month of May, and when we're open from November through December to bring yard debris, and we take it. Also, talking with John, what we could also do is if you buy the sticker, you'll have access to the yard. If you call outside of those 2 months, say you decided to clean your yard up in July, and I have a big pile of leaves, but I bought my sticker, call Public Works, let us know you're coming, and we'll let you in to get rid of it. But it wouldn't be open year round. You would just have to make an appointment out of those other 2 months, or call and let somebody know you're coming. No contractors. We have a lot of contractors that take advantage of us, bring trailer loads of leaves and dump them in the yard. And we turn around and have to get rid of them and pay to get rid of them. Bag leaves, we want to continue that. We're fine with picking up bag leaves, as many as you want to put out. If you want to bag your whole yard, put 100 bags up, we'll still do that for the month. That works well. We get them picked up in time. We can get rid of them. It still costs us, but we have a recycling place that takes them. And this year we actually had a garden center that took some that they're going to make compost out of. So that saved us some money. The vac truck, as John said, that's the biggest one. It was supposed to be originally designed just to take the leaves out of the ditch. But as anybody that's rode through the association knows, it's not just leaves out of the ditch. They rake their whole yards. It's very time consuming, labor intensive, and it takes time. We used to do a schedule, as Ruth Ann could probably tell you, when the leaf truck was going to be in a certain site, but you can't predict that, because if I go to your yard and you rake your whole yard out, I may have a truckload and a half there. So the guys are there 20 minutes at your house, where if somebody just raked their ditch 5 minutes, they can move down the road and get to the next one. So we're not going to get rid of the vac truck. We're going to get rid of that program of picking them up that way. We'll still do it. And then our drainage guys will go back and use it for cleaning the ditches that haven't been cleaned by the residents. We'll use it and do it ourselves. Disposal, we started this year. We're looking at different, we had contractors hauling and getting rid of them. Worcester County doesn't take them for free anymore. They will if you take 1 or 2 bags, but you can't take truckloads to Worcester County. You have to pay a tonnage. Isn't that right, Noby? Correct. Whatever the correct tonnage is for disposal. Selbyville will take them, but there's a fee. Eastern Shore Forest Products, there's a fee. Everybody's taking a fee to take the leaves anymore. It's not free. It used to be free. You could get rid of them. So we started utilizing and working with Blue Hen Recyclables, worked with, like I said, the local farmer, local garden center, and we're hauling them ourselves. We designated a guy and worked with the town of Ocean City, and we rented a truck from them that does the bag leaf, kept it longer, and we were able to haul all the leaves to the recycling place with that, which once the number comes out, we're going to see a big savings in doing that much on our end. But I think it's just something we need to look at. I mean, if we don't, like John said, we've kept the money in the budget to continue the way we've been doing it for years. But it's just something we wanted everybody's opinion on, and just what they thought.
Right, we're looking for guidance. We want to do this. Again, Republic picks up the leaves, and if they're bagged, and Eddie and Noby are giving you options on, probably a little more options on what to do with any type of waste that you have, refuse. Okay, what say you?
On the bagging that you talked about, you said if they bag them, we would pick them or you?
We'll still do, yeah, we'll still pick up from Thanksgiving to Christmas like we always do with the truck.
So you wait, they call you to pick them up?
Yep.
No,
We run twice a week
Okay.
to All Ocean Pines and pick them up.
So still do that, but
Yeah, that's a lot less labor. It's real.
yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure.
You said that Worcester won't take the leaves now, or they won't
Don't
take?
take them, but you have to pay.
And how
You
much?
should take them for free.
Okay, so now somebody dumps the leaves and stuff into the yard here, then you have to take them to Worcester and pay.
Yep.
What if they eliminated you as the middleman and you paid the fee? Not you personally, but like you paid for the fee for Dick to take his leaves and dump them in your yard, and he could take them to the Worcester County thing and skip you guys completely. Ocean Pines pays his fee to get in there.
That would have something we'd have to look at. I mean,
We can,
So right now where we spend the money is for the contractor to come in and pick up all the stuff. sitting on the side.
disposing of them and picking them up, running the back truck. It takes labor and time.
there's a lot of our people, and it's tying up for a lot of our manpower.
John, I think you said Republic has a limit of how many bags you could put out at once.
So you are right, and somebody helped me out. It's something like 4
Time.
each time. So if you get
8 a
picked
week.
up twice a week, right, it's 8.
About 8.
I gotta tell you, I think I watched them. They're diligent on it.
Oh, yeah, they do.
It's more than-
No, I agree. I agree.
And we're paying for, everybody's paying for that.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we're double paying. And look, I gotta look at this kind of stuff. They're doing what I'm asking them to do. Look, I get about sacred cows and all that stuff.
Unfortunately, some people take advantage of it.
Exactly, and we're seeing it.
Put their whole yard in there. Yeah.
I totally agree with you.
So, let's see if we can dollarize this. So, probably not a whole lot of money associated with the stickers, right?
But that would be up to you or the board to decide.
Probably,
Yeah.
when you total it up, it's not a lot.
Yeah.
The savings is really eliminating the contractor to come in and take the leaves,
Well-
pick up the leaves, take them away.
Yeah, it is. But what the sticker does is we're allowing just the residents to use a yard and somebody else taking advantage of it. Right now, there's no way of checking who is coming in our yard. We don't have a scanner down there anyway.
So, okay, so we have.
Control of who's using the yard. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it ties up the manpower in the
You have a
yard.
lot of manpower tied up on that, which is probably one of the bigger
Yeah.
items.
So you do have people watching when they bring it in.
Oh, yeah, I've got to have somebody there. Yeah,
That's no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a whole safety.
that's, I was gonna say, that's one of the reasons why we just can't open the yard and say, come up and use it. I gotta have somebody watching you because we have all our equipment in there, all our supplies are in there, so it is a safety issue when you're in that yard.
Okay, and you said November, December drop off in May,
We usually open the month.
but you're willing to do it July and August if somebody calls.
If somebody calls and they bought a sticker, we call the office, say, hey, I got my yard. Can you open it for me to come in? And say, okay, well, we'll meet somebody, meet you over there.
But I'm wondering how many of those you would get.
Yeah, I don't know, yeah.
I know you don't, it's
And
hard
like-
to predict that.
Like we talked
That could-
about, we would still, I mean, if we have a storm or a hurricane, of course, we'll,
Yeah.
like we always do, and
Yeah.
tell people to bring them debris, but it's,
Yeah, maybe that's not that big a deal. I'm just wondering how many would be calling you in July and,
Yeah, it may be something we have to say, no, can't do this anymore, but.
yeah.
Is there a restriction on what they can bring into the yard?
Just yard debris, branches, anything like that. We can't take lumber or pallets or anything like that, but leaves and branches and all that kind of stuff. If they, which people have, mixed stuff in their leaves, cover them up, throw them in, and we dig in, we find, we have to pay a higher tipping fee. We pay like $40 a ton now for leaves. If there's trash and debris, it's like $80 a ton to get rid of it.
So, branches, debris.
Branches, debris is like 40, yeah. We actually worked a flat rate with one of our haulers, or a can, as much as we can stuff in a can, as long as there's branches and debris, it's X amount for that can, period. But if they have before, something's gotten mixed in, then all of a sudden we get a bill for tonnage.
I mean, it seems like too much work for you guys.
So, well, that's what he said, it's very labor intensive. I mean, it's not just coming up, dropping your leaves. I've got to keep guys over there all the time watching it, yeah.
So there'd be a little bit of revenue associated with some of these stickers, but probably not a ton. So the real savings is the cost.
Correct.
The cost to have a contractor come in and pick up and take away, the cost to cart stuff out of.
Yep.
Out of the excess stuff out of
Yeah.
it.
And I think it would control that it's just free from the resident.
If you had to kind of roll it all together, revenues and costs net, what do you think the savings is by moving in this direction?
Off the top of my head, I bet you we could probably, what do you think, 40,000 a year?
If not break even.
Yep.
It would balance the cost.
But I don't understand.
So like if people were bringing stuff and they pay for the sticker, the amount of effort for the labor and that to get rid of the stuff that they're bringing would offset the cost of that. So it would maybe balance it out.
But people would probably also be putting more trash into the pickup for the,
Yeah, you gotta watch. Yeah.
so
Yeah, I'm thinking there'll be a savings definitely in the disposal because we're controlling what's coming in there. Like I said, if I can eliminate the contractors, I mean, we should have just done a video for you guys to see. Linda can tell you when she sits in that office, I mean, it's all day. Guys pulling in with these dump trailers and, I mean, they're hauling in 8, 9 ton of leaves at a time and dumping them, and they're back in there 4 or 5 times a day. And then we have to turn around and get rid of it. So it's, like I said, it's not my decision. It's up to the GM and you guys and the board on how you want to handle it. It was just an option we came up with.
Right. I guess let me ask the question about savings again. Let me ask it a different way. What would the savings be from our people time and what would the savings be from having to use outside contractors and disposing of the materials? What kind of savings do we think we might have materialized from?
You'll cut that number in half on the disposal and all.
What's the raw dollars?
What's the manpower? Yeah, 60,000 probably.
65,000. Ballpark.
Yeah.
Obviously, we would know.
Yeah.
As time goes on. Easy. Ties up a lot of manpower.
And that includes labor and.
That's what he's saying, yeah. I mean, that's a, that's a high level. That's the ballpark. It might even be higher.
Yeah, that back truck runs every day as long as weather permitting, and there's 3 to 4 guys on that truck with it running and picking up leaves. Truck only holds, what's it hold, 10 ton, maybe?
Maybe.
Full.
If it's lucky.
So once it's filled, like I said, if you got to somebody's wrecked their whole yard out, I could fill the truck at 1 yard and a piece. Then we got to go dump. So then you got the 4 guys, you got to go run and dump, and wait for the truck to come back to rake out and keep moving ahead. It's very labor intensive.
I think 2 things. Number 1, the contractors and lawn services that are dumping there have to be eliminated.
Yeah.
That might be through that permit.
Yeah, that's where the permit would stop it because if you have Ocean Pines resident, we'd only be allowed to buy it.
Right.
And we've been told, I mean, I've been here quite a few years. It's one of the arguments is a resident may say, well, they were my leaves. Yeah, but you've already paid him to get rid of them and he's dumping them on us for free.
Yeah.
The contractor should have that price figured in his disposal. I mean, if you got to get rid of them, you shouldn't have to bring them to us, dump them for free. I get it that it was a resident's yard, but you already paid somebody to get rid of them. And then you're paying again, like John said, we're paying twice.
Right. And then, we gave you the estimate, which you asked for with the labor, which is the right thing on your end. But, if we decided not to reallocate this money, I don't have that as savings. we're going to utilize that manpower for other stuff to get to. So.
Fortunately, the people that are behaving, whatever the right term is, and just raking the ditch are going to be impacted by this versus the person that chooses to do their whole yard.
Maybe this is ridiculous, kind of, how big of a minority is that?
It's gotten worse over the years. I don't know, Ron, you live in there, we say 60%, probably rake your whole yard.
Really?
I can tell you, I paid attention this past fall.
It's a lot, you
It's a
can
lot.
tell, I mean.
I don't feel bad.
60% of the people are taking advantage of this thing that could go away.
Yeah. It's a tough call. I mean, it was just.
It is.
Yep.
60.
Yeah, that's really, honestly, that's what we got. And,
Yeah.
Frankly, I'm okay with it, but that's just one person's opinion. We have a whole committee here.
To me, paying for something twice, but
Yeah.
Thoughts?
No, I'd like to see them eliminated getting into the yard, eliminate that somehow.
Okay.
I don't know, between Republic and maybe,
well, Republic doesn't go to yard. They don't put it.
They haul off for us, but now you talk about Republic picking up, the other option.
Oh,
We used not, we opened the yard 2006, Linda, probably is the first time we started opening the yard. And that was on the advice of a past general manager to try. And that's when we started that. The yard before that was not open to the public.
Maybe put it this way. I mean, I own a yard. I mow my lawn, I trim my hedges. I take care of all that myself. Why should you or Ocean Pines have to take care of my leaves? I mean, if I put it in that kind of a context. You know, I do my own yard, I mow, I trim my hedges, I take care of my yard, I mulch, I do all that. I don't call you to say, hey, you know, I need my lawn mowed. So
Maybe you should.
why would I call you to take care of my leaves? I mean, that's,
No, I hear you.
you know, that's kind of why I'm agreeing with it, and maybe some fine tuning on some of the stuff, I don't know.
Linda, you got it.
My opinion. I'm one of 6 or 7, whatever we are.
George, I appreciate your feedback. Linda, you want to say anything? I know you from a CPR
I mean,
perspective.
no, it's,
Why don't we try the sticker thing, see how it works out? Do it, right there.
But does that solve the raking of the leaves?
Yeah, that solves the one issue.
That solves the one issue.
The pickup of
Yeah.
pickup at the site of people raking the leaves off their yard,
it's now doing the leaf.
which everyone's gonna do.
leaf.
I know you're gonna pick up my leaves, and if I rake it to the curb,
No matter what.
that's I'm gonna go.
Well, you have my thoughts. so.
Open up this year,
Yeah, I was on Josh.
forced it this year.
I had Josh out.
Yeah, we have CPI, if the public works crew sees leaves out on the road this year, CPI is enforcing maintenance as in debris and sending violation notices out for the violations if they rake the whole yard. And so far, I think we've paid a contractor, I think at least around 20 homes where we've actually had to go out, and that goes against their assessments if they don't pay. So.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe, I mean,
I'll weigh in here too. Don, if you're there, you can weigh in too. I don't have a problem with advancing the program full-fledged, you know, I don't have a problem at all, personally.
Advancing the recommendation?
Yeah.
Okay,
In other words, pick up, and,
thank you.
combination plus definitely the yard closure, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Don Bonifati, do you have any thoughts, comments?
I'm in total agreement with it. And I think as well, as mentioned before, not the contractors to dump.
Okay. All right, we will,
Dick, oh, Brian.
Brian stepped out for,
Oh, did he?
Brian, are you there, Brian?
he was for it last time, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But he was for it and when,
I just,
For a doctor's appointment.
okay, but he was
but I'm fine. I just,
for it when presented to BNF.
done before, I didn't want to.
So anyway, that would be in your guidance. We'll quantify it for the number when we present to the board. Thank you. Okay, are we done with Public Works?
Yes, we're done. Other questions?
Who's doing bulkheads?
All right, I guess,
Oh, you do. Okay, so the next section, a very important section, and we have a great team on this. Linda will do the presentation of the budget that was prepared by Noby, Linda, and of course Eddie.
tab 9.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's not.
Yes.
Sorry, yeah, no. Okay, bulkhead reserves has decreased to 1,151,114. Payroll has increased to,
That's totally based on the square footage and the lots identified in the plan.
Oh, I keep making that mistake too. It's the linear footage, but correct, the linear footage, right. So just an overview, you got basically, Eddie and Noby has told me since I came in, we have somewhere around 90,000 plus linear feet. We try to do between 2,500, 3,000 linear feet a year, depending on the section. So if you take that in the vinyl and everything, now we're being told 50 years, you can see how we're putting together a plan and everything. So linear feet, 2,300.
It's already laid out which lots you're gonna do now.
Correct. Yep. We already got approval on this from BNF and then from the board. But we should go through it though, Dick. You're doing the right thing. Go ahead.
okay, moving on to payroll. Payroll increased to 65,474. Payroll costs also increased to 38,134. Uniforms stay the same at 400. Supplies stay the same at 150. Bulkhead repair stay the same at 20,000. Bulkhead,
So the question here. You had a storage rental for this year, but nothing for next year. $24,000.
Yes. So it was 3 years ago, we couldn't stage anymore over at Swim and Racket. We had the agreements we had with the contractors and all that. We needed some type of staging area, whatever. We contracted and it was all through budget and finance, and the board approved a commercial spot in Bishopville, which we utilized to get through that. Currently, we're looking at different methods and working with the contractor on how to bring in the supplies and the material. And it's so far, and again, we tried something different and on how to get the material there. And we're even looking at other items. So it's worked for us. We'll see how this year goes.
So is the Bishop rental cost somewhere else?
No, that's done. We did not renew the contract. We'll see how this goes this year.
okay, bulkhead labor, 919,125, stay the same. It's broken out this year, if you notice. Bulkhead lumber, 6,000. Bulkhead fill and topsoil, 20,200. Bulkhead side, 25,000. Canal maintenance stayed the same at 5,000. Dredging decreased to 45,000. And then moving on to electricity. Electricity increased to 2,300. Gas decreased to 800. Trash increased to 1,300. Telephone increased to 700. And water and sewer increased to 200.
Right, so yeah, that's all minors. The big cost here is the repairs and maintenance, which is basically your square footage times your 4. Is it?
Right, it's 425 per linear foot.
Yeah, it's also reflected on the budget detail sheet for the 2045.
So we got, let me just see here.
We're doing 2,300 linear feet, right, Nobi?
Is that what it is?
Yes.
So again, keep in mind, one of the parameters that we have on this thing and what I found out my first year in this position, we have to get this work done by Memorial Day, certainly May. If we take on too much and they wind up going past there's a lot of, the phone rings off the hook, I understand. So everything we're doing, and I'll ask nobody to jump in, it obviously depends on where they're putting these bulkheads in and the condition or whatever, we always try to make sure now that they can be done by May.
Trying to satisfy everybody for the summer because we don't want to take anybody's summers away
It's,
by having equipment running and different things.
I learned that first year we were very aggressive with the linear footage and everything, and we were jump starting it. And, you have delays, you have different things. Obviously back then you had the COVID and all that stuff, but we want this program done, but before Memorial Day. Also with this year, this is a preferred vendor that we've had a lot of success with. They are going to put in the docks.
Fuel docks and the kayak launch.
They're doing a lot of other work for us at a very good price. Ron, you want to jump in anything with them? And they did a lot of work down there. So we have that's all part of this. The logistics and the timing that Eddie Nobi, Ron Fisher, what they're working out. We work out with the contractor. We kept the price down, as I mentioned before, with the team here, Eddie Nobi, Ron. Sourcing material, working with the contractor who is open to that. And we're seeing some savings there. That we're doing some of that work and storing it in the yard, I believe. We found some space. So, and that's what we're trying. That's all I got.
Yeah, so this is the type of one, even if there's a little bit extra money left over, it's in a reserve, so,
Correct.
it's fine, it's okay.
Correct. And then also, there's always, not always, but sometimes with this past year, we experienced an emergency. Right, and that's actually some work that we probably would have did this year anyway, right?
Yeah, it would
So-
have came up in the DMA study, but we had to push it forward a little bit because
Right.
the wall was failing.
Right. So we do, I believe, I don't have it in front of me, though. I know Steve worked up something for me along with the guys, and we believe, I believe I have a balance in there, even after doing this work, in case there was an emergency, right? It's about 2-something.
Okay.
On the dredging, that's on 31, 2,000, is that based on
So.
analysis of what needed or?
Yeah, so I'll let Noby and Eddie jump in. A lot of times getting the permits and everything, it hasn't been the easiest on that. Go ahead.
We typically start out with 20 applications. And at 20, just because we submit 20, 2 or 3 might not make the cut because of the criteria of like, the state and the federal and that. And also we've learned that if we go over the 20 applications, that we actually fall into a different tier where we have to do multiple studies and geographics of the canals. And it takes us to a whole new level and a very expensive thing. So that's why we based it on this. We brought the number down as far as the dredging because we know what it costs.
Okay,
Good job.
thank you.
Well done. A lot of analysis there. We don't just put in buckets. There's a lot of work behind the scenes and the permitting. They're doing everything possible to keep the costs down. The whole team. Okay. Anything else on bulkheads? Noby, Eddie, Linda, thank you. Thank you, Budget and Finance. No, what's next? Steve.
Well, Ron's here, so
Oh, yeah, Ron Fisher. Oh,
let's skip to tab 21 and do Marina.
yeah, no, I want to do Marina.
Okay.
No,
Guys,
absolutely.
you okay? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
That's fine.
You okay with that?
You got to get to an endpoint and
So, all right, so great. So, and, first of all, thank you, Ron, Noby, Eddie, coming up early. So the Marina, we made a couple changes. Marina under Noby, Gus under Eddie, and of course I have Captain Ron. Because a lot of the work on the Marina over, even in the past 6 months, but definitely over the next 6 months, is construction, is maintenance, is a big number going on down there. Also a new fresh set of eyes on it in management. So I'm going to hand off to Ron. I'm assuming Ron's doing the numbers or, oh, Linda is, I'm sorry. Linda's doing it, but with Ron's attention on it. Right. Again, it's a cross-trained team. Go ahead, Linda.
Okay, revenue, fuel sales increased to 960,000. Boat slips, increase, boat slip rentals and swim racket increased to 19,955. Boat slip rentals, Mumford's Landing, 197,866 increase. Food and beverage stayed the same at 8,000. Merchandise increased to 6,500.
You guys want to jump in and you're trying to build revenue or whatever, which.
We raised the boat slip fees 5%, which is very reasonable. Excuse my voice.
And then you're also doing something as far as the merchandise, baby.
Right.
Tell the team.
We're increasing merchandise. We're adding more fishing equipment that's traditionally used in the bay. We're not going offshore with any equipment, but we feel that we can increase our sales significantly for bay fishing.
with a 4-year waiting list for slips, it must be tough to budget slips.
It is.
The waiting list is as long as the list of
I
slips,
think
right?
this morning we had 94 boats on the waiting on
How many slips you have?
87.
Okay. Go.
Okay, cost of sales, fuel increased to 800,000. Food and beverage increased to 5,000. Merchandise increased to 5,000. Payroll has increased to 74,733. Overtime stayed the same at 250. Payroll costs decreased to 13,791. Employees stay the same at 120.
So is your payroll basically increase in hourly rate or maybe additional people there?
It's the minimum wage
Okay.
adjustment.
And Linda, Steve, minimum wage is going from what to what?
1250 to 1325.
And then in January 1st, it'll be 14. So the 14 is what's included.
That's a big number on the payroll when
Yeah.
Steve does the walkthrough for everybody.
Credit cards, for services, supplies, credit cards increased to 29,000. Uniforms decreased to 600. Contract services decreased to 8,000. Gas and oil decreased to 300, and supplies stay the same at 2,500. Moving on to equipment, equipment stayed the same at 5,000. And utilities, electricity increased to 4,100. Trash decreased to 2,800. Telephone increased to 1,000. And water and sewer increased to 2,800. Moving on to other costs. Insurance increased to 9,900. And that's it.
On the equipment, we have 5,000, budget 5,000, but we're 12,000, almost 13,000 year to date.
Yeah, so that's kind of the catch-all because we don't have all the expenditure types set up in all the different areas. I want to say it's probably deck repair, painting, things like that hit that, Ron. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah, exactly.
And you're going to get one whole new deck, I guess, this coming year.
Lot more than that.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah?
The tune of what, 500,000-600,000 the whole time?
yeah.
All approved by the board, by budget and finance, and a shift when you see the capital, but yes.
But that's is it the CDOC?
CDOT,
The others are still staying.
right. CDOT's new gas pumps, new dock, the whole ballgame.
The other docks will be down the road
Right.
in the near future. Big number. I could just jump in. Are you done?
Yep.
So just on this, and look, he's kind of consistently, and his team's consistently come in $250,000. You know, when you hear small craft advisory, if that's a weekend and he gets a couple of them, it has a major hit. If there's a storm or whatever. So that all has to be factored in. They did a great job last year getting that dock and those gas lines, and I've talked about this before, getting them operational by the season. We did have problems down there. Obviously, this year, we budgeted as if we're going to have a full season, and we're confident on that, but there's a lot of work that this team is responsible for, that we have to get in there, that whole dock and all the gas pipelines by May. We're on track. Constantly monitored and updated by us, constant meetings with the supplier, everybody else. But how are we looking?
We should be going to hopefully fabrication on the whole dock and everything, Wednesday next week at the latest. And, we should be moving forward. It's about 6 weeks to build it. And, ready to go by spring.
So a lot of with the engineers, a lot of the contractor and, the county and.
State, county, yeah, gas line.
And a lot of logistics going on that this team does, that we do. And we are confident we'll be open. If not, obviously there's a budget hit.
I just quickly like to say, I think my staff did a super job operating on 2 gas pumps this summer. And our volume was down, but we manipulated our gas pricing to get bigger boats in there. So we did okay.
They did excellent. And what he mentioned, I forgot about this. Ron and his team have attracted the bigger boats, bigger gas tanks. He's done that over the last couple of years, and he's had very success with it. And it's come down to the bottom line. And with everything going on with the two pumps or whatever, I was told and I witnessed, they did not turn away, nor did we see boats leaving the lines, correct? So compliment to his team. All right, so we have on it, what say you budget?
This is more of an observation question. I know this is not your responsibility, but with the T-Docs, have your people observed them being pretty occupied, pretty full? The extra spaces we've had, the extra spaces we have for
Yes.
people come in temporarily.
I believe it saved a lot of arguments
Oh, tremendous.
because normal slip holders put in their slips without being bothered with people pulling up to get dinner. So now with the new slips, they can actually use them and go up and get food and come back and they're not in someone else's slip.
So we're going to touch on that with food and beverage, but it's been successful for food and beverage, and I'm sure Matt and if Ralph was here, they would say the same.
It's been a real plus.
Don't you always question that over the years?
I did, I admit it.
We've had success, but you know, right, I mean, it's a good question. But even.
George wants to know the number of hot dogs sold.
But that was another one we took, you know.
I'm making money on hot dogs, pal.
Bold move.
Yeah, both ways, that's right.
And it's worked out. All right.
Great.
Anything else for Ron, Captain Ron?
No, it's all about fuel cost.
That's great. It could be a commodity trade.
Yeah. You're locked in with your boat rental, so that's good. Very good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
Thanks, guys.
Linda, thank you.
Thank you.
Noby. All right, Linda, what do you got next for us?
You want to move on to the fire department, tab 10?
How much, how much more do I have for today? Just the fire department?
Fire department.
That's it?
I can do the police after lunch if you want.
Yeah, what, if you're gonna do police, why don't we just do that today and get that taken?
Okay.
Can I, and it's up to the chair. All right, so I have fire department this morning. Then we're gonna, afterwards, we're gonna do the police, which Linda will do, and Steve. Can I bring in somebody else this afternoon?
Yes.
I could do rec and parks. Kathleen's not in today.
I think, so we'll do a,
We're really working towards here, John, is eliminating Friday.
I'd hope to, if that's okay with you.
I'd like to.
We're in.
Replacement, that reserve is never good for Friday.
Yeah, we can do that. You can.
We can do that tomorrow afternoon.
Okay, so wait, so just make sure, wait, I'm sorry, you said you're gonna do aquatics or rec and parks?
No, I could bring in rec or parks.
Yes. Bring her in.
Kathleen's not in today. I can do aquatics if you want me to.
Yes.
Okay.
You can do it with the pricing and everything. You good? All right, so we're gonna do fire department now, Steve Phillips, and then this afternoon, police, rec and parks, and aquatics. And tomorrow, we would have golf, and I can't do golf today. Bob's not in. Golf, food and beverage, we have that tomorrow. We just did the marina. And then replacement new capital, we have Steve for tomorrow. And then we can summarize general discussions, review actions, and everything else tomorrow, Dick, if you want.
So tomorrow, move golf up to first thing in the morning?
Yeah, hey, Bob's not in, but yes, yes, we got to reach out to Matt too. Let's bring everybody in the morning.
I'll reach out to Matt.
Yeah, tell Matt to come in first thing. Make sure he's in the. Otherwise, Steve. Food and beverage, we actually just met with him again yesterday, so Steve and myself were well versed and everything that we're gonna see. Okay, good.
We doing fire department?
Fire department.
All right.
All right, Steve.
So we heard from them last week, so I think this is kind of going to be a review in many, for a lot of you.
What I have is a sheet with pen marks on it. That's, okay.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the right one then. Okay.
Yeah, so the first page is basically there. We're at tab 10. The first page is their sheet that they like to do each year.
So let me start by saying, this would be in our minutes here. Is that this is not a bad sheet. It's a good sheet. But your sheet is also great and better because it has historical stuff on it and so forth. I understand this comes out of their system. This is the numbers they're comfortable with. They're really uncomfortable reconciling with what you do. What's important is at the end of the day, the bottom line for reasonable categories all balances out.
Right.
My recommendation for next year, or our recommendation for next year, would be that if they want to use this sheet, maybe it's not this sheet, maybe it's two sheets, 3 sheets. But they put in the historical data from their system, which is the same thing you did, tried to do for the budget for North Star. Does that make sense?
No, totally.
Because we spent a lot of time trying to go back and forth.
You're right.
And I mean, my creation kind of was off of last year where there was a lot of additional information requested.
In some cases, they have more detail. In some cases, you have more detail. It doesn't really matter. It all rolls up. And
I just wanted to bring out the comparisons because, I mean, the audit numbers were always left off of here. So we missed out on actual revenue numbers and such.
so next year, we'd be asking them to add that historical stuff on there. Okay.
Okay.
So, I mean, the first page is theirs. We made some adjustments. We had several meetings with the fire department over the course of the last couple of months. And, we had adjustments made. So you can see those by the mark-ins. Now, last week, they brought their updated sheets, which contain those markups, but I had to get the binders out in the ample time. So that's why they're in there. But basically, the next sheet will show you the breakdown of what our request is. So as we ended up saying last week, the fifth column is your 24 budget. They are requesting $994,000 from OPA in total. That consists of three different areas: your operating funding, your capital reserve contribution, and then basically what we put in place 2 years ago, which is your utility reimbursement incentive. And because of the payroll implications, we have them actually pay out the reimbursement to their employees. We just cut them the check and include that as part of the check each month. So that is $994. You can see that's a reduction versus last year. So net $70,000. We're actually going up in capital based on a capital sheet that I'll show you here in a few seconds. And we are going significantly down in the operating funding. What's driving that? It's pretty much your revenue. You see your revenues are up $150,000 in the budget versus budget. So that's pretty much what's pulling it out. In terms of your expenditures are up also, but your revenues are up higher. So bottom line is 2535 when you include their operating expenses plus our transfers to apparatus.
Steve, can they do an estimate of 2022, 23? Instead of about 6 months to, forecast the last 6 months or something?
Yeah, I mean, I can request it. I end up doing a lot of the tweaking for him, to be honest with you. I mean, yeah, we get QuickBooks quarterly. So, I mean, I see what comes in. But I'll certainly work with them to try to get us to a better
I
estimate.
don't know if it should be you, but shouldn't they be able to supply you some kind of estimates for the year?
Yeah.
They're going to wind up having the accounting firm do it. We can work with that. And I understand, I appreciate what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like we give them support, we're all one at the end. We'll look at that. Steve will try to get it.
Yeah.
I understand what you're asking.
So net $70,000 reduction. I think.
And that's good. But it sounds like we're on the 28th, there was a couple different numbers on apparatus replacement. It sounds like the number you have here is you have a consensus with them that this is it includes fixed vehicles, but also adding in some of the higher price.
Yeah, there was an additional.
Sundry stuff that should be capitalized.
Yeah, there's an additional 15,000, which I guess technically we should be on there, which would raise it to 240,000. John and I talked it. Maybe we can.
Should have always done
Maybe we can get them to offset potentially with some other areas. So we'll make the adjustment in the next rendition.
All right, but and there may be some areas to offset. One of the items that we brought up was the EMS billings. They pegged for 520 and they pegged that because that was what their year end 2021 was, April of 21. They had on their financial statements, they had $520,000 of EMS billings. We raised the point that, okay, that's now, your budget is now 2 years removed from that. the increase in fees and maybe the change in volume, maybe they have an opportunity to look at that number and fine tune it to a higher number. I think the takeaway from that meeting was they were gonna look at that. But they've gotten back to you with more information on that, but that's clearly maybe an opportunity to cover, you know, some other things, capital or something you're trying to do.
It's the 520,000.
Yeah.
It's 520,000.
Yeah.
So with the cost of medical billings going up, I would think 2 years out, their fees for an ambulance call, there's got to be some price increase in there. And if their volume is going up, that's even more. Maybe the volume's not going up. I don't know, but it seems like there's an opportunity to really take a hard look at that number versus just plugging out the 520.
Okay.
On their replacement schedule, I was just looking at the pumper, they're gonna be doing that. That was due for replacement actually in 2021, so they're doing that now. When I look at their fee, they're foregoing 2 command units that, according to this, for life is up for 2023, and they say they're not gonna do that for lack of funding. I mean, it's their decision. I'm just wondering if a good move, owing that, or is.
Yeah, so this is their sheet, basically the third sheet that we have in here. And then basically I compiled our standard internal reserves that we've developed over the years. And then with that's the fourth. So their notes on here basically says command units will not be replaced due to lack of funding, right? What I did on our sheet was I did not put them in there as the estimated spending. But you can see the bottom line cash balances or estimated balances.
Yes.
They could technically do it.
Yeah.
Right. But how that sheet works, just to kind of give you an overview, is, you know, we know what they have in their cash account this year. That's what we start with, the 610. They contribute 50/50 with us. So that's based on that estimated depreciation funding line. And then we put in a 2% inflation factor. And that basically did not put us underwater based on the replacement schedule. So you can see that our balance never dips. I guess the lowest balance is out in 30/31 at $20,000. So, you know, it's kind of like our own reserve summary that shows that we can make what they're looking for happen without dipping below zero and have an adequate reserve on hand.
It's 50/50. What if they don't have their 50?
I guess they can't buy it.
We don't have that situation right now.
Well, I mean, they were selling.
Hopefully, I'll probably be sitting here and there'll be a lot of discussions. I don't have that situation.
They have assets on the book.
So let me just finish on this. So this analysis, it's not a report, it's an analysis that I've asked for. We do it for our replacement reserves and everything. This analysis kind of answers and gives us the assurance. We do have the cash and the money, even with our general replacement. This ties it all together. What Steve's saying to you is that we will have it. If you wanted a direct answer on that, I would have to check our governing documents and everything. But this shows us that for the next, whatever, Steve, what do you got here, 7, 8 years, we should have the cash. Well, this is one of the best analyses that we've done. It ties everything together so we can see where we are cash basis in our reserves and everything. When I get to questions, whether I'm under reserved, over reserved like this, if we didn't have the schedule, it'd be hard for me to answer these questions and for Steve. So
If you look at their balance sheets, they've had some deficits and they still have a healthy amount of investments and assets on hand. And if you just look at this replacement of hard apparatus at the end of next year, $237,000 at the end of the year, and you look at that as being a reserve, okay?
Yeah.
It means there's other assets on their books over and above this 237.
Yeah, Brad.
There's a lot of money there. I said a lot of money. There's money there.
But I'm sorry.
So, and if you tried to say, okay, this 237, that's potential balance at the end of 23, 24, based on this analysis, and you apply that to a percentage of 100% replacement, pretty low percentage.
Sure, yeah.
Which speaks to a definite need for some kind of capital campaign that basically builds up money for replacement of assets, because it's not sitting in this analysis, but they do have money on their balance sheets. Question is, they talk about it being savings. There's money there.
Yeah, they got a couple more $1 million between assets and
But isn't that for the building, the grants and the money they got? Is in there, right?
the grants are not in there yet.
He got that $1 million, where is it?
Well, this is as of July 31st.
Oh, okay.
I suspect if they're indicating they're going to use $1 million of their money to put towards facility,
Yes,
coming out of that bucket too.
yes.
And if that's the case, it again speaks to a potential deficiency in percentage of reserve funding compared to Ocean Pines reserves, general reserves, which again speaks to real need for a capital funding campaign. My opinion.
If you look through this, those two command units, and then you look at the sheet of spends, which their useful life is up now. The next 2 years, they're not doing anything, and then they're spending 900,000 there, which still doesn't cover those units, because I'm reading that to cover that other pumper at 900,000 in 2026. And then as you go down it, I don't know when they're replacing those units, which their useful life is going to be up. So there, to Dick's point, there's some concerns here on that.
It's a number like, I think if I calculated, I don't have it at my fingertips, but for 23-24, it's like an 8%, 7 or 8% reserve, if this is the reserve of 100% funded value.
Understand.
Which is, not very strong.
So I will anticipate that guidance from BNF. Okay. All right.
And the only other thing there, Steve, maybe it's just fine, is under repairs and maintenance, we mentioned that they were looking for 50 grand. Year to date, they spent 14. I think the previous year they may have spent 19 or something. I don't have it in front of me, but they're budgeting a lot more. I understand they have a building that has unpredictable things going on. But it might be that 50K is worth taking a closer look at to see if that's.
So we will do that. We did that when they were in. It's a number, they're not totally sure what could happen. They're trying to minimize, because hopefully, and look, it's not definite. I can look at it, but we're going to see the same thing. I mean, the question is whether or not we want to lower what they're putting aside for maintenance, to be honest with you. I mean, I can look at it. I know you're saying that, and I'm just trying to explain it to you. I mean, I'm going to go to them. They're going to say, hey, this is what we could. We're going to try to cut back as much as we can in anticipating of a new building, but things come up and you don't know. So, when I don't know what to do when you say, take a look at it. It's either increase it or decrease it or leave it the same.
I guess if I'm trying to recall what took place in the discussion and how vetted that number was. If they take a look at it and they say, reasonable person would say we should have that number there, that's fine.
Okay, so I'll
take a look at it and say, oh, yeah,
I got it. I know what you want. I'll take that guidance. I will definitely sit down with you.
I understand what they're saying.
Right, but I'll do it. I'll go.
Building, maybe they don't want to spend too much there.
Exactly what they told.
Come into effect where if they let something go,
right,
the new building isn't there yet.
Exactly.
And their costs, then they get.
I would be here 2 years saying, hey, we only spent 20 years ago. They're saying the right thing, to be honest with you. I will go back to them. I'll take the guidance. I will sit down with them, see if they can you know, I got it. I'll do that. Okay. So the big thing, and I understand, and you're right, Dick and George, and about the capital, whatever. Let's see how this fundraising goes, this whole campaign. And I think we'll know, and then maybe that could help towards what you're giving guidance on. I'm hoping. I'm sure they're hoping, but, no, you got a point on the capital. Nobody here at this table is disagreeing with you.
And I remember them saying that they were looking at a new service provider, I think that the way they kind of maybe like who they have, but they were talking to somebody else. I would just encourage them, if that other service provider has any good insight into the kind of fees we're charging, and maybe there's ability to do something differently.
Okay, got that.
You know, I asked Harvey, did he like the guy that was the people that were doing their billing? And his answer was, it's good and bad.
Yeah.
He kind of pushed the good, but he never really answered the bad. Means, but.
And maybe you don't switch, but at least if you talk to somebody.
Right.
You get perspective on what other people might be doing to enhance their billings.
Okay, is that what you, because we understood what you were saying about the EMS building, the 520. We're going to go back, discuss that with them again. Then you said something, we missed it on the service provider.
Yeah, they were talking to another service, they had this service provider, they had it for a long time, that charges 8%. And basically, I guess they send them the money that they collect, probably send it to them net from their 8%. And he was saying, we're talking to a new provider and we're not sure whether we'll make a change, but we're going to have that discussion with the new provider and just see what it's like. And I'm encouraging that, saying,
okay,
if you're talking to a provider, maybe they have a good idea as to what we could be doing differently with our fee structure, or maybe additional fees that we're not thinking.
Okay. Linda, just see if they're available next week. You know, I write it down so we can even try to set up something with them before you type up your guidance and everything. But we'll go through that with them.
What is Harvey's job specifically? I mean, I'm not trying to be a smart ass.
No, I understand. No, you're asking good.
Why is he doing all this, whatever he's doing, instead of pushing it off, or not pushing it off, but having somebody designated doing it for him?
You want to go first?
Well, if you remember his answer.
I remember the discussion.
Yeah, he likes to hold it close to the vest, because he basically has all the knowledge. And we did ask him if he has a backup, and I think he said his admin was a backup.
But he's not comfortable with.
But he's not comfortable letting them do
So,
everything.
I think this was good. So
Delegating, yeah.
I'll tell you this, on my team, that don't cut it. I will talk to Harvey and Steve and Dave, with Dave and Steve. I know I will talk to them, duly noted. Again, you're not going to hear that from anybody sitting at this table.
What is he supposed to do?
So he's on the fire side, or he's
Firefighter.
he's on the fire side. Yeah. He's been there a long time. Senior guy,
He's like a deputy chief, I think is his title.
So he's a senior guy. He's knowledgeable on the stuff that he has put forward. I was there. I understand what you're saying. I will discuss.
He does a good job, no doubt.
I mean, absolutely. He's doing a good job.
Great job, but.
He has answered all your questions, Steve and my questions last year, at the last minute. He's a senior guy, but I understand your point. All right. All I'm saying is that you don't hear that at this table, so. All right, I knew that was coming. All right, we done? Fire.
I think so.
All right.
Yep.
Linda, thank you. Steve, thank you. Thank you, fire department. They spent time with us. A lot went into this. There were a lot of discussions, meetings, and they also met with BNF. I can tell you this, they were very constructive talks. They came in early, and there was a lot of handshaking and everything, and I think it's a pretty decent budget. Duly noted on the capital, Dick. Okay, next. Where's it, lunch?
Break for lunch, or do you want to do?
It's up to Dick.
If lunch is here, why don't we just break?
Lunch.
Okay.
Ready? Let's just start off with the police department.
Make sure the recording is starting here.
Okay.
Looks like the red button's on the top, so it's,
Yes,
good?
you're good.
yes, it's,
Josh, we're good?
yeah, he's just so Keith, yes.
Okay. Steve will present the police department budget. We have worked with the police department, but Steve will go through it today.
Okay. Police revenue. Our estimate's $560,000 this year. That's what we put in for next year as well. Obviously, that's a function of county funding primarily. Payroll, that's obviously our biggest component. Our estimates certainly lower than our budget because of the open officers. We did just send an officer to training this month. So I think we're on the up and up from what I've heard in terms of filling some of those slots. So
Yep.
How many down are we? 2?
Not down, wait, so we're filling to go into the academy.
yeah, was it definitely 2 went in January?
That's what the last one I was told was 2.
Yeah, I thought 1 now, 1 June, but
I
you could be right.
All right, so the bottom line is 2 is going to the academy.
Right.
If there is a difference in a couple of months.
Yeah.
But I think what George is asking is, with that said, how many open positions after that?
So after that, we still have at least 2 more. I guess it's like for 5 open.
But so even after that, and he was limited to how many he could send to the academy. So he filled as many positions as he could to have them certified.
Yeah.
So 2 open, but the dollars for that open position aren't in here.
Dollars are in there for all the opens.
All the opens, okay.
Okay.
The last discussion I had with Chief and Steve, and we did the salary adjustments and everything, and we talked about what Steve's going to mention about the 401K proposed adjustment. He thought that we were in line and competitive, right? And then
Yeah.
especially with the take-home trucks/cars that the board approved, he believed that we were in line now with everybody else. And he filled those 2 positions right after that, so.
Okay. So for the benefits, then, of course, we got the medical increase in there. And now there has been, I guess, there was a change a couple of years ago for their 401K plan, for their contribution, to be more closely, I guess, resemble some of the pension contributions that some of the municipalities and local governments have. So we did actually try to, we proposed another increase of 1% to that line. So that's reflective in here.
So Steve, so a couple of years ago, as Steve mentioned, we set up a separate 401K program for them where they did not have to contribute, but Ocean Pines would still put in a match, and the match is or was 5?
Correct.
5 or 6, 5. With this budget that Steve's going through, Steve and I worked up and worked with the chief to raise proposal to BNF, and I know we talked about it, and then go to the board to increase that to a 6% match with no contribution on their end.
They have to be invested to get money out.
Investing on their, they have to.
It's 100% vested. So right off the bat, and they
100% vested right off the bat with both their contribution and the OPA's contribution.
So they can make a contribution. They don't have to make a contribution what you're accustomed to and we're all accustomed to in order to get the match. They automatically, if you're on the force, you automatically get, so if you're making 50,000, what do you get, Steve? $2,500.
And if they quit after 1 year, they get the
That's what
25.
his question is.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, it's a safe.
Is that the way OPA is too? How about the fire department?
We are 100% vested.
we're under the first year, but you just got to wait a year before you go into.
So you don't get the match for a full year is the way OPA works, but you are 100% vested.
Right. After, so you got to wait that 1 year to even get a contribution. Then after that, 100%. You have to wait that 1 year. They do not have to wait.
And yeah, it's a safe harbor plan, so they get the 5% automatically. The proposal has this increase in the safe harbor plan to 6%.
And we're saying that's competitive with other municipalities now,
It's getting us there.
getting us there.
Yeah, I mean, one of the options I have is that we can also look at, we're proposing an increase of 1%. We can look at 2%. Now, we did give them the salary bump across the board that we talked about in the range of 2%. When we look at the salaries now, they felt that they were competitive, plus the trucks. So I have in here proposed for the 1% increase from 5 to 6. We certainly could discuss 7. And Steve will tell you how much that would cost if you, but we'd like to talk about that.
And they're taking the vehicles home too, right? No, it's working pretty good.
The only one I've mainly talked to is the lieutenants and the chief, and he said yes.
Good.
Yep.
Yeah, so the additional 1% is a little over $10,000. It's, so each 1%, you can just do the math there.
So, I mean, this is one of the biggest things we're coming forward with, is we put in the proposed budget, the increase from 5 to 6. That's an increase in the budget from last year of $10,000. So if we went to 7, that would be an additional $10,000 with $20,000 increase over last year. Hopefully I get approval on the 1%, but we didn't put in there for the extra 1%, but I could certainly, if I get the guidance from BMF to go forward with 2% up to 7, I would do that with the board. The number's 10,000 per 1%.
And I guess you arrived at the 1%. I guess you competitively thought that was the right thing to do, right?
He was good with the feedback I received. He was good with that, in addition to the 2% across the board increase we just gave him.
If the chief is good with that, I'm good with that.
Okay, all right. We could always relook at it next year. I'm fine with that. Definitely we should increase it though.
Do we know what other municipalities are doing on that?
So remember, with the other municipalities, we're also looking at that they have the pension, the state pension, whatever we don't have. I'm just going by what he gave me and what he told me. He said that plus the truck, plus the 2% increase that we just gave on top of other stuff that would make us competitive. Then also, we had these 2 offices to go into the time.
Good, yeah.
Yeah, all right, so I'll go forward to the board, continued with the 1%. Okay, thank you. And we'll see how that works out for next year.
All right, so I guess as I scroll down the page, I see one item that I probably need to go back and talk to police about is vehicle gas. Yeah, so I knew that question would probably come when I got to that line. So 5,000 estimate, 25,000 in the budget. We probably need maybe another 10,000 that maybe we can offset somewhere else. So we'll look at that. The biggest line there is your contracted services. And you're going to have your body cam new expense in there. So if you turn to the next page, it breaks out the subcomponents of the contracted services.
And that's a lease, right?
That is a lease. Yeah, so I think we signed the contract for 3 years, a 3-year lease, $30,000 a year. Actually, it was 5 years. Now Axon for body cams.
Oh, yeah.
Body cams. So that's the number one expense in there. And then
Is that in there for the full year this year, that lease?
yes.
Because you're actually budgeting less than what you're spending under contract services.
He signed it in June, yeah. Near June. Yeah, so we're allocating, I'm straight lining it.
Probably not accrued, it's probably in there whole, right?
Straight lined it throughout the year. So you'll see that build up to about 75,000. It'll be close to the budget. Yeah. And then, yeah, it's mostly custodial services. Obviously, the 24/7 operation, we have somebody in there daily. They have Superion, which is their public network safety. They have their own ADP charge, and then just some other stuff for shots, physicals, psychological exam, copiers.
If I can remember correctly, there was this a protocol for cleaning a cell, right? That you had to follow, huh? Certain cleaning procedure or whatever.
I'm not positive, but the chief,
Maybe that was a COVID thing.
yeah, it might have been COVID. So yeah, I'll look at the vehicle gas, but that's pretty much the major items within there.
Steve. What happened with that? That video? It's not in there.
Unless you put it on the capital. Is there any police capital that came in?
I know.
He was talking about that. No, he didn't put it in.
No.
Okay, next year.
So I see ADP, is that in all different departments?
No. You saw in finance is where we budgeted all the stuff for non-police. I believe it has a separate, timekeeping, fingerprinting, et cetera. So that charge gets into the police because it's distinctively the police's charge.
Police liability insurance, how difficult is that to get and what does it cover?
So we've actually had pretty minimal increases because we, haven't had any incidents from claims experience. How, I guess, what does it cover? I mean, it's going to cover your officers. I mean, I don't want to get into the specifics of what's under the actual policy itself. Obviously, there's a ton of exceptions and things like that, like any other policy, but generally speaking, it's going to cover your police activity in the field, should.
What the police officer would do wrong,
Yeah, I guess so.
which should probably be a lot cheaper than downtown Times Square in New York City, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. He's saying our incident rate is very low. That's right. That's what Steve's pointing out.
Yeah, I mean, we've had good experience with that, so that's enabled us to not have difficulty, would that be more difficult? Sure, if we did have an incident.
Yeah. Good.
All right, but yeah, that's $30,000 for that, so that's the majority of the cost.
Look at this.
All right, so I think that's all I have.
Okay, any questions? You pretty much highlighted the four items that we put in there. He definitely will look and see, we'll adjust for the gas. I'll talk to the lieutenants. Good. Okay, all right, thank you. What's next?
Debbie will be here at 1 o'clock.
Oh, we got time here.
I know, we got time.
What else can we put in?
I had, Beach Park at 1:30. I had,
Beach parking, 10:30. Oh,
yeah, because I figured she's gonna take a
I
half.
thought she was gonna come now.
You want me, I can try.
To fit her in now to get.
Okay.
All right, so I know you want Matt, and that's fine. So we'll have to do food and beverage tomorrow.
Okay.
Golf, I'd like to have Bob here and Justin, obviously, everything tomorrow. Otherwise, we can do it, but I know you.
No, it'd be good to have them do it.
Absolutely. Steve is probably prepared. We know he's prepared to do replacement, new capital reserves. Let's see, Debbie's coming in the quiet. I want Kathleen here. I'm sure you want Kathleen. The beach parking, we can do that with Dan, because odds are the questions,
So she should be here and
the main question you're gonna have, we Dan certainly give history and everything on that. And then when Kathleen's here tomorrow, she can add anything else on that.
And Dan is,
Dan?
yeah, you said Dan?
Suzanne.
Dan, right there. And I believe she would give you the history. I mean, we have the schedules, but she'll get the history. She had input on the beach parking along with Steve, myself, and Kathleen. And then Kathleen could add anything else to you on
You
it.
want to do like beach parking?
Yeah, but
And revisit?
Dan's on the way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I just said. All right, so we'll wrap up beach parking and then we'll do aquatics and then we'll call it a day. Oh, no, aquatics is tomorrow. Aquatics tomorrow. So because the people aren't here and you want the people, which is fine, aquatics will be tomorrow. Buffer operations and maintenance will be tomorrow. In the morning, we just need to check with Beckelman and Justin. Make sure they're here. And then food and beverage, what time did Matt say be available tomorrow? So we'll do all three tomorrow morning.
Or was it Debbie coming today?
Debbie's on the way. Can you get her on the way?
She said she'll be here.
So we're looking at doing beach parking, rec and parks, and then Steve will do big one. Placement reserve and any other reserves. It's a fluid team. So just, well, we have time staring at each other. Is there anything that we missed that anybody in the room or anywhere else or budget and finance that we're expecting that we didn't deliver? Just curious.
No, I guess for the sections that we had, I think we're.
So everybody's good?
John, I have a question.
Sure.
So how many open positions are there on the police department?
So we,
I know that two are being filled, don't count those.
yeah, so, right, exactly. So there's five, Doug. We got the two, whether they start in January and June or some combination.
Right.
That brings us down to three.
Okay.
And again, he could only send two to the academy. So to be certified, I think if he had more spots, he could have filled them, to be honest, from the last talk I had with him.
So I would assume there's active effort to do some recruitment to fill those.
Yeah, yes, and he filled those other two pretty quick, and he had another one, but then the person backed out or something. I believe it with the package that we have now, that he's able to recruit.
This is state-run academy.
Actually, you know what, he's got a dispatcher open now, right? 50 is. So Doug, just, there's probably a dispatcher position open now also.
Yeah.
That just happened.
Yeah. We always get two vacancies for each class.
So, Steve, if you want to jump in, it seems to me, yes. However, from talking, it is possible. Do I have that right? That he could get another one? But it depends on different factors. It's usually, I usually hear it.
Get down, yes,
Small municipality, if you could get three into one class, but you wouldn't get one in the next class, that sort of thing.
Exactly. So if somebody didn't utilize all their slots and more slots open, it's possible that he, yeah. Yep. All right, so a little change. Debbie obviously is here. Dick, and she's ready to go through rec and parks.
Okay.
Some combination of Debbie, Steve, or Linda will go through the pricing.
Okay. So then we'll start with maybe 12, tab 12 recs, maybe.
Tab 12.
And then we have racket sports.
Right. Debbie, you got
Good afternoon. Am I supposed to just start this process? You guys got questions? I can certainly go through different things. And then if you have questions, we can talk about that.
That works.
That work? Okay. So as far as recreation and parks, obviously, we don't have a membership there, so that's why that line item is always empty. We've done some reclassification with some of our stuff, camps, classes, clinics. We're breaking those down a little bit. We're going to do another breakdown with some drop-in stuff just so it all comes out clear. But your total proposed for all of those things is the 14. The donation that we have there, that is the county, which is through John, and we put in for that each year. We have gotten it for the last few years, so we anticipate continuing to get that.
It's like a grant, county grant.
Yes, yeah, that's, I don't want to say it wrong. Nope, I'm not going to use the word because I don't want to call it the wrong thing. Okay, but it does come through the county. Recreation versus tourism or whatnot, so. Just don't use the wrong words. So anyway, you know, facility rental, that's always a hit or miss. They are starting to rent again. We get calls all the time, so we do anticipate that that is coming back around again. And that we will be good with that number. League fees, we have increased some of those fees for our sports and leagues that we carry. Special events, some of them have stayed the same just because, oh, go ahead.
So what are our leagues? What are the leagues that?
So we have indoor and outdoor soccer. We have fall and spring softball. We have men's basketball, youth basketball. That's about the size of it in my brain at the moment. Yeah.
Thank you.
So the adult dodgeball. So special events, and we do have some changes there. We got a little ahead of myself last year. I'll place it on me, thinking that we would be able to bring back more bus trips than we were actually able to include. So they're finally, I think, starting to come back around. I do believe that revenue will be there this year going into the new budget. New York was a great trip that we took in December. We had 2 buses of people, so it makes me feel comfortable with starting to book those types of trips again and adding those back into our special events. We have increased some of the fees for our special events that have not been changed in a while. So we're not by a lot, just by a minimal amount for some of those, for the revenue making events. Farmers market, it's a great thing. It is consistent and a lot of vendors, that pricing has not changed, but it continues to just grow and grow every year. For Camp Ocean Pines, we are increasing the rates this year. Minimal amount again, but it will be increased. So this amount is pretty stable, considering that we always max out with our numbers based on what we're allowed to have statewide for camp counselor ratio to number of kids in each group. So that's a pretty consistent number. Dog park, we have not raised that fee in quite some time since we started these keys and having the dog park locked, and that's been quite a while ago. I've not set a dollar amount for that change yet, but I do anticipate that going up a minimal amount as well.
What is the fee then?
$25. Yeah.
That is to what, every time you go in?
It's a whole year.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And then it's more, $10 more if you have another dog or whatnot. Yeah. So let's see, sports camps, that kind of decreased because we put those within our classes. And there's no class clarification that needs to be done between sports camps and classes. So we just combined it all together. As far as movie tickets, that's just a miscellaneous revenue type for us. They are sold at just a minor addition up level, if you will, to cover the shipping cost. And vending, that pretty much is our ice cream and things that we take in through camp and through some of our concerts and special events. And then just miscellaneous revenue that we take in. Jolly Rogers tickets, those we get an upcharge for them. That's where we make that money. It is based off of what they charge us, which is a very much decreased cost from what they charge if you purchase those passes at the gate. They have not raised our fee. And I anticipate getting something from them in the next day or so, letting me know what next year's prices will be. But this is based on our upcharge that we are able to take in. So then you see all the cost of goods there, and how we are, being able to do our inventory nowadays. And Mark's done a great job at getting it working, through North Star to be able to track all the different products and pieces that we sell. And, it's really going well. I don't speak much on payroll. I kind of leave that to the GM and the finance director. As far as the rest of our expenses are concerned, they're pretty much standard. We stick within what the budget says, for all of the different line items that we have. The monthly expenses, they kind of are what they are. There's just minor increases in certain things. But not much we can do about the increases that come to us, on the monthlies. As far as class instruction, those basically are our instructors that teach the classes like yoga, Pilates, Zumba, Tai Chi, all of those types of things. League expenses are referees and any supplies that we need. Special events obviously has a big ticket. There are some that take in revenue and some that do not. For the most part, what we budget for on the special details page, you would be able to see. Those are from past experience, plus what we feel would be an inflationary type of increase in our costs this year. But I have spoken with my staff and they will be sticking within what their line items say. And as far as coming in with new special events, new classes, new programs, that is a challenge for them this year that I've given them. So as far as revenue is concerned, additional revenue, it is possible within the special event world to be able to make that dollar amount that we've committed to and staying within the expenses that we've budgeted for through the special event. Sports camps, again, has gone to zero because we've included that in classes. Dog park expense, that is mainly mulch and the upkeep that we have there as far as the dog park and park keys. Now that we have the box and we have to purchase keys, that's why there's an expense there. And the keeping up with the mulch and everything. Each year we have a certain expense that comes in the spring. And some of our, I'm sure Eddie probably talked about it earlier today, some of our general maintenance for me, like in parks, you don't see that again until the spring. So that's why right now the number might be minimal, but you'll see it again as we go into the spring in March and April when they start doing the parks and the playgrounds and the mulching and all of those things. But these have, all discussed and stick within the budget between myself and Public Works. All those things. The rest of it, as far as dues and subscriptions, there are certain things that I have to have as far as the state for camp and requirements of that. But as far as insurance and things like that, that's my piece of the pie, I guess you will say. And that is our finance director. He takes care of that and just kind of tells me what that number is going to be. But it's weird. But as far as anything else, that's I'm up for questions. If you have any specific things that you'd like to ask me.
It looks like your payroll for estimated this year and next year is up kind of like maybe 3-point-some%. So does that imply that your staffing is pretty much set, your people?
Pretty much. I do have one that there may be a little bit of an increase as far as adding a person. I have one that's going out on maternity leave and one that I'm going to need to put in her place for a little while. But pretty much set as far as not hiring too many more people. Mm-hmm.
So minimum wage, how much does that impact you, the minimum wage part of it here?
My part-times, I have 5 of them. So we just went through that the other day. I think there's 5 that get moved up to that minimum wage level in my department. And then there's 1, 2, 3 at Racket. Where's that stack of paper?
Couple observations. You know, just looking at it, like Camp Ocean Pines, it looks like you get revenue of 190K on that.
Mhm.
And expenses are only 41.9.
This does not include payroll.
That does not include payroll. Okay, well, then the same would be true with league expenses, 38K in revenue, and you get in a cost of 15.7, so.
Most of the league expenses are a little bit different. We do have employees that's included in their jobs, okay, as the facilities person. But if I have to pay referees, things of that nature, then that comes out of the expense at the bottom. But as far as like, just say adult dodgeball, I have staffing that runs that, that's included in their hours. There's no additional expenses other than dodgeballs themselves.
Well, you're doing pretty good against that.
Yeah.
Special events, we get revenue of 75K,
Mhm.
but an expense of 102.5.
Mhm.
So.
Yep. There's quite a bit that we do that is free events.
Yeah, I understand. It looks like it's about
It looks like a lot.
but it looks like it's about the same ratio as it was last year when looking at it. So that hasn't really changed.
Right.
When I looked back at last year, so it was kind of in the same ballpark.
Yeah. Camp
Observations.
Camp specific payroll is about 115,000. So add that into the 40, 155. So we're still making.
Still doing.
Get about 40.
Revenues offsetting the costs. Yeah, good. Just some observations. That's it.
Is there something you'd like to do more of? Different?
Well, as far as the bus trips, trying to get those back and being able to offer more of them throughout the year. We found a new company that has a pretty decent rate that, the profit would be, margin would be good. There are some other events that I think are out there that we could potentially do, but again, we're not as big as some of the other locations, where they can do different things. They have more staffing, and a bigger facility.
Are there people that ask you, why don't we do this or why don't we do that?
Yeah.
A lot of that.
It's most of what I get are the teenagers within that 12 to 15 age range, trying to find things that they'd be interested in.
Really?
Not everybody's an athlete, so it's kind of hard to find things that everybody is interested in. Yeah. Our adult programs are starting to come back now. Some of the things that we lost during COVID, we're starting to get interest back again, which is a good.
Coming out of the house now.
It's a good feeling. Yeah, yeah.
So, if I could just jump in. So, and Debbie actually touched on the point I was going to make. And I'm glad to hear you ask that question, Don. Obviously the bus trips, but she's restrained by the size of the building and the campus she has there. If she had a bigger campus, she has the demand big time.
Yeah.
So
I would guess if you had a bigger gymnasium, you would probably be able to.
Yes.
What you mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
just
Yeah, if I had more room, there would be more things. I have, actually, they're all texting me today. Can we get a weekend? Can we get this? I'll take one day. Can I, so it's every day looking for, somebody's looking for time. But it's one gym and it's a lot to slice up, for everybody that wants to use it.
Have we ever looked at options for expanding? If that's what we got that.
A while ago, there was, now correct me if I'm wrong, there was conversation about the golf course on Beecham Road being turned into a sports complex. There's been conversation about the grass area by Taylor Bank, but nothing ever really came about, into real conversation. It's just kind of rumor.
But if BNF feels that that's guidance, we'll certainly look into it.
I love it.
And what's your experience of how busy Ocean City is down in West?
So down in North Side, they have a huge facility. I do know that their pickleball courts are full all the time indoors. They have basketball, they have futsal, they have multiple programs that can run, all at the same time because they have two sides. One's a little bit smaller than the other, but it breaks up. They have kids and adults and they hold tournaments and all kinds of things over there.
Yeah. So
I know my son works there, so, because he can't work for his mom. So.
I can't speak to basketball or other things.
Mhm.
Well, but I can say that pickleball would benefit tremendously and populate cool weather
Right.
indoor play
Yeah.
or hot weather indoor play.
Yeah, we get quite a few, but again, our gym is limited to 3 courts and the amount of hours that we can offer, with everything else trying to.
I understand.
And the size of the gym,
The gym isn't conducive to pickleball, really. You
we make it work. We make it work. That's exactly
Or-
right.
size of floor. It's just the where you sit and where the court is, you're just running into walls. and
Right.
seats and-
Right. It's very, very tight to put 3 courts in there. You're correct.
So I don't know, John, it's something that probably for long-term strategic planning. Exactly. What's the next step for bigger recreational facility? It makes a whole lot of sense to me.
Okay, right. So the next steps would be, and what we're doing down at Racket Sports is we bring in somebody like Frank Brown, who's very good with sketching and everything. He helped us with this and we start to get some ideas and then we start presenting it to whether it's to the committees of that amenity and the BNF. We're doing that with the Racket Sports right now, but if I get that kind of guidance to go forward, which we'd like to on her building, we could certainly do that and put it in the queue of the different, items.
What does BNF think about that?
I think it's a great idea. Turn the North, turn the North Fire Department into pickleball.
Balls, I want to put courts in there. I want to put pickleball courts in there. Write that down. I'm with you.
The suggestion.
Okay, so again, it's just giving us guidance to go forward. I'm checking the beams in there, but, okay, so just guidance just for the start on something like that. It's nothing that we're going to be coming, we just
Right.
thought to work on it.
Yeah.
Thank
An
you.
idea.
Yeah.
Other than pickleball, it sounds like demand is for other activities and it sounds like a good thing to do for the overall positive.
Mhm.
So we'll put that on. Thank you.
This is Brian. If I could offer,
Hey, Brian.
Yeah, Brian, please.
looking for, field space. When I bike around town, I often go by like Somerset Park and Huntington Park. There's so much space there and it always seems like there's nobody in those parks. Like with Bainbridge, we tried out the disc golf. Maybe we could try out something in some of these other parks that, aren't getting utilized.
Yes, there is a blacktopped area at Swim and Racket. Nobi and I have discussed different options that we could put in that blacktop area in the past. And then other projects kind of bounce around. But it is on my radar with them as to what we can do with that. If we take that blacktop up, you'll never be able to replace it. It's already been said. So that has to stay there. And we feed off of that, or we take it up and it becomes just open area. So something that we need to think about. I do know that some people, I don't know how many, use the tennis court that's out there. But I don't think it's very many. So that whole area there may be something that we need to take a look at. And the popularity is in that department.
Okay, just a suggestion that it seems like we have, field space available for, new ideas and that'd be great.
Yeah, we have space to use at Huntington as well, Brian. You were right. And yep.
Okay.
Very well.
All right.
So Debbie,
Sir.
for them, looking for the section on the fees. Let me see.
For Racket? I'm sorry, for Rec and Parks?
Parks and Rec now. I'm just.
She has a
It's
schedule.
probably,
It's a full schedule.
is it in your packet?
Yeah, we got it here somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah, membership dues. Okay, here we go.
So we've moved on to Racket.
You're not going to see rec.
I'm gonna see-
Rec doesn't have that because we don't have
We do
membership
have
for Racket. At
an
Rec.
internal sheet that we actually created this year.
All right, so you mentioned some fee increases.
Yes.
What was
could you repeat that? The fee increase?
Oh, sure. So some of the fee, like our classes, have, not increased in quite a few years. So it's about 3%, 4% that we have, looked at increasing for our sports classes, our exercise classes. Some of them, as an example, toddler time, I'm not increasing that because it's just a child's mommy and me kind of program. You get a hit and miss number of people and not something that can, that you would benefit by increasing. You would probably hurt yourself by increasing the dollar amount for that type of program. So we've got our sports camp that we turn into classes there for the summer, exercise classes, some of our league fees, as far as basketball for the youth program, indoor soccer, outdoor soccer. Those haven't been increased in quite some time, but it's not more than 4%. Some of it's a lot less than that.
Fees are in the 3 to 4% range.
Mhm.
Yep. That seems reasonable, not unreasonable.
So, a little bit at a time.
The age group in Ocean Pines is, I'm sure there's like seniors like me and then George. And then
He's in his 40s.
and then there's this other group that's in the middle, and then there's this teenage group, I guess, or little kids. Is there a bigger population in one and the other than maybe seniors? But is there a population that you have to go to?
Let me give you an example. So for our indoor soccer and outdoor soccer, the most popular age that we have are 2 and 3 years old and 4 to 6 year olds. Okay. The 2 and 3 year olds fill up just like that. You can only take so many of them.
Right.
Because so that fills up almost immediately. And then you have the 4 to 6 year olds. But then when you get to the 9 and 10 year olds, it's kind of scarce because there's other opportunities for them to play. They can start travel. They go to River in Delaware where they can actually start team play and travel play and other different tournaments and stuff with them. So you have a wide range of ages, but we literally start at 2 years old in that sport, and we started a 9-10 program this year that is actually starting to get some of those kids to stay with us that have been with us for quite some time since they were 2 and 3 year olds. And they also
Do you have travel teams for the 9 and 10-year-olds?
We do not, because there are so many already out there that we couldn't compete with the number of teams that they already have. River is huge out of Delaware, and they take kids from younger ages all the way up to 16, 18 years old.
Is River the one on Route 1?
Mhm.
113?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right in.
And then there's that one new complex that has a lot of soccer and a lot of lacrosse. Yes, sir. We can't touch lacrosse either because it is just so huge. And there's so many different travel groups already here in our area and in the surrounding area that we just can't touch it. We don't have the ability to do a whole lot there. Yeah. But we do have that wide range. And then you come into your 20 and your 30s at playing softball and indoor dodgeball, things of that nature, men's basketball league, and then we have our seniors. Yeah, so we try to hit everybody with something.
I'm sure.
We try.
That's good.
Tell them about your haunted house.
My haunted house.
So let her tell me about her newest,
So that endeavor is quite a lot of work. It was a huge thought on my part. But we turned the recreation department into a haunted house, and it was very successful. Our first year, last year, was a little kind of hit and miss, trying to figure out what was the best way to do things, getting it out there. But this year, much more popular. We had multiple rooms and multiple different things. We had a corn maze inside with a guy on stilts. It was a scarecrow. Yeah, it was quite an interesting event, and we've gotten lots of really good feedback. I just actually had another lady on the New York trip the other day tell me what a great time her and her granddaughter had, and it was the right mix. It wasn't too scary, but it had just enough jolt to keep you excited and scared. So, yeah, but that's quite an endeavor to turn that entire place into a haunted house. And if it wasn't for a lot from Public Works and Josh Davis and Travis, it wouldn't happen. So I do appreciate all that not Josh Davis, Josh Vickers, excuse me. Josh Vickers, he does a lot to help me get that event underway, and it's a lot of his creativity as well.
So she anticipates that growing even more.
Mhm.
Grew a lot
Yep.
this year and she's expecting to grow a lot more next year. Did you mention about 4th of July and fireworks?
No,
You doing?
you want to
next year
talk
with that?
about?
No, you-
Yeah. So again,
4th of July fireworks. Debbie, why don't you tell them about what you have planned for that?
so we're gonna continue with the over the pond. Obviously that turned into a very popular location. We will have more food vendors this year and more games. We've added a couple of things to the event this year that'll be a little bit different. But we don't want to change it too much. It's very popular and it goes very well. We still have the 5K in the morning and then we take the break in the afternoon and get ready for the nighttime event. So we'll continue to run that event. That's very, very popular.
And a shout out to the police department and Public Works for all this support.
Absolutely.
And everybody else.
Yeah, most definitely. Because without them, that wouldn't happen either. It is quite a large event for our small department.
Okay, so budget and finance, you see you get a lot for your 500,000. Obviously, there's a lot of programs that we don't even realize that she took you all through. Budget and finance, what's say?
Yeah.
A lot of money.
Very good. Looks good. Yeah.
Nice.
Debbie, thank you very, she's got racket sports.
Well, if you're done with me, I'm no.
No, you gotta-
You know else.
They've had enough of Steve and me, but they want you now.
No.
All right, racket sports.
All right. Where would you like to start?
I guess tennis.
This is first.
Tennis is first.
Tennis is first? All right. Okay, so kind of switching gears a little bit. So we added lessons to classes and clinics so that all of the money that is taken in by for lessons from the instructors is run through that same account. We are working on some grant money that Terry sent me some applications for grants that we can file for equipment and different things. He and I are working on that. He is on his winter snowbird vacation for right now, but when he comes back, we'll be working on grants that offer equipment and different types of things to tennis. As far as facility rental, that's not a big thing, but we do have some that rent the courts when they want specific, say it's a family and they all just want to specifically play together. They can rent courts for that. There are no leagues at this time throughout tennis, so that's why there's nothing in those spots. There's no outside special events or anything for tennis as well. You see that drop-in has been separated. It has its own line item now so that we can generate exactly what's happening as far as drop-in is concerned and the membership fees. As far as vending, you will notice as we go forward, once we get all of the cost of goods and everything all straight over there, Mark and I are working diligently with that, making sure that everything's going to the right place. But there are some inventory items that can only be posted to tennis versus all three sports. Anything that is specific, say a pickleball or a tennis ball, that can go to their individual line items. However, their overall vending, things of that nature will always just show up under tennis because of our system. So that merchandise number that you see there is a little high for tennis because it includes everybody. Okay, that's for all three sports. There's not much that we can do with that on the inventory piece unless Mark finds some way to make that happen as we go forward.
Are you forecasting memberships flat?
I'm hoping that it increases it a little bit, but pretty much I do believe that we'll get back what we've had. I don't anticipate much of an increase.
Is there a rate increase for tennis membership?
It was put in for a rate increase. I don't know where it ended up.
He's got the schedules. Hold on.
Sorry,
So it should
let me
be a
get to my
schedule.
page.
So there is a schedule for Debbie.
Yes, there it is. Sorry. Yes, it did go up. I wasn't sure how far we had gone.
Section 13,
That's fine, just,
third page.
Chad, Steve jump in.
Yep, where the memberships have gone up.
A couple meetings ago, we talked about trying to get a manager that could manage all these things. Any luck?
We have already done the job description. It is posted in multiple different places on our website, and we're accepting applications and resumes now.
Is that included in your payroll here or?
So it's gonna
Yes.
just, yeah, that's.
Go ahead if you
yeah, so,
wanna-
yeah, let me jump in. So we did work in conjunction with the Racket Sports Committee, who had input in, who had input into the job description, some guidance and everything. Debbie worked with them. And our HR person, Lisa Carson, they put together a job description. The Racket Sports Committee was looking for us to hire somebody in the range of, let me open the progress. How much is it? 90,000 with benefits and bonuses. What we had in the budget for this type of manager in this current year was around 30,000. We worked up and I've given Debbie 45,000 plus. So we did raise how much, but not what they were looking for. If we did that, all my directors would want that job. But, so we did do an increase in there. It's 45,000. Debbie, I believe, has started the search with Lisa.
Mhm.
And Debbie has some ideas on it. So,
Mhm.
so there is an upgrade there.
Fees are about 3 to 4% up
Yes,
across the board.
yes.
A lot of activity out there. Okay.
Basically, what you see as far as the expenses are concerned are just basic. Your monthly expenses. As you can see in this past year, there wasn't a lot of equipment expense. I keep that there because of different things that may pop up. As far as class instruction, those are fees for the instructor that gets paid for doing lessons. And that's pretty much, it's pretty much self-explanatory as to what happens. I'm sorry,
Maintenance, the 18,000.
the contract service for.
So highlight that, tell them what you're doing.
So we have gotten bids for the Hartrue tennis courts that we do. It's an annual maintenance that we have to do. They clean it all out. They pull up the lines. They make sure it's all leveled out. They replace all the Hartrue back into it, and they put in new lines every year. We have been doing quite a lot of maintenance to keep the lines from popping this time of year because the weather fluctuates so much that Bob does roll the courts quite often to keep those from popping and continue to be playable for as long as they can be. But, you get water, it gets squishy. It is, kind of is what it is. But that is something that is done every year. And it is a big number and it increases every year. But it is something that we have to do.
Okay. Definitely tennis has more maintenance than the other things.
Because of that.
But if you look at, we're trending in the right direction anyway. 21 actuals, 20 actuals, actually pretty good, 20 actuals. 21 actuals were 66K negative. Next year, 47K. This year projected at negative 36K, and then we're flat with next year what we're projecting. So we're trending down. It's tough to cover all of those costs. It's just
Yeah.
only so many members, so many players.
Correct.
Okay. Pickleball. Okay, can we move on to pickleball? Pickleball.
Okay, fastest growing sport in the country. And that's no lie. So as you can see, the memberships are increasing every single year. Drop-in has increased tremendously. That means we're getting a lot of outside play, which is great to be able to actually see the difference between our drop in play and our memberships. The memberships have increased quite a lot, as you can see, in the last few years. And, which is good. It's good that we have, that many people that are actually playing the sport and utilizing those courts, so that what we've done has been beneficial. And, again, you know, as far as classes, that's instructional, that's lessons. There are some things that, you know, like Nike Camp, things like that come, those get put under facility rental. So that's why that number for pickleball is a little higher, because we have those types of rentals every year that come in and rent the courts to be able to play and run their camp. Their membership fees have gone up as well, just the 3% and 4% like tennis. And again, you'll see that there's no merchandise sales there, but that's not necessarily the case. All just has to be under tennis.
So what's significant growth in membership? What's your basis for that? What do you?
I think that our facility is tremendous in this area. Ocean City does have those, a lot of indoor courts, but I do believe in conversation with other members that we have one of the best facilities in this area. And it is having done the repairs to the courts, putting in the new courts, and the things that have been done in the last couple of years has made it more inviting to bring more people into our area.
So I see Dick's looking at 23 versus 24. The 24 is basically where we are today.
Mhm.
That's where we are today. So, okay, so we're
257 in
so
terms of
we're not,
membership.
not don't have any increase planned for membership in these numbers here.
I mean, based on it being so significantly higher than the year before,
Right.
we hedged the bet and said, hey, that
Try to leave it.
put in 257.
My gut tells me, I mean,
It'll
you can
probably
leave it
go
like
up.
that, but my gut tells me you're gonna continue. It grew 33% last year. It's gonna continue to grow this year.
Right.
So
Right.
we'll take that as guidance. We will go back. We'll put an increase in there.
Just a question. I see Salisbury, I saw on the news, is increasing, building more pickleball courts. Do you think that'll impact us here, or is that too far away? Too far away?
I know that they play tournaments and they will travel to play in tournaments and stuff, but I think as long as we have the indoor facility that they can play in the winter, and as long as we keep, you know, doing really well with our facility itself, I don't think that those that are here will travel too far, you know, unless it's like a tournament style thing that they want to be in.
I noticed special events is down. 30,000 estimate this year, 20,000 in the budget for next year.
20?
16 estimated for 30. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out.
And year to date, we're only 16.
Yeah.
So
That,
combining more of this year's actual with next year, it seems like.
Yeah, so that year to date in October, Steve, was that, did that include all of the Oktoberfest? I don't know if it was actually all said and done at that point.
No, it wasn't. I think it was accrued by me through October. We'll look at it.
Yeah.
Wait, and I'm sorry, are you talking, my fault, are you talking that, why isn't the proposed budget higher?
No, I'm saying the estimate for the year to date, or for the year, is 30,000.
Right.
And then we have a budget of 20,000, which matches last year's budget, but
It's probably a formula because we basically had the budget filled in, so that 30,000 is too high. Yes.
Okay.
If that's the
I
question.
don't think you have too much more going on tournament wise between now and April, right?
That's correct.
Right.
Your 16 is going to be your final number, so the 30 needs to be adjusted more than anything.
Which then brings you down, Steve and Debbie, brings you down to 50, which is in line with her budget. Yeah.
Yep.
we are trying to grow that line item. And we have in the past, and we're going to try more. That's part of the whole thing.
Yep, that's part of the plan, with management and myself to come in with some new events. And try to increase that special event portion of all three sports, to be perfectly honest. But that's something that will be discussed with the new management of the facility. Yeah.
So speaking to long-term planning, where are we at with evaluating the replacement of the building?
Replacement of the building.
So the replacement of the building has been discussed, as like we just talked about. We've looked at the foundation. We've looked at what we could do there. We've talked to the committee about what they would like to see. I think they need to, the Racket Sports Committee needs to come up with exactly what they want. Obviously, I don't have it in this budget. I would hope to have something for the next budget. But we're in the planning, the idea stage, trying to find out from that committee what exactly they would look for.
And we do have a fully depreciated building, right?
Yeah.
The answer is yes, that building's been made. I don't even know how much of that is actually on the books, but the answer is yes. The good thing is we have a foundation, we believe, just like this building, which is a foundation we can use, which would be a big savings, and we would have to use the same footprint. So over the course of this next year, we're looking with the Racket Sports Committee to try to see if they can iron out exactly what they're looking for through the liaison. And then hopefully next year.
Debbie, on the members page,
Mhm.
it says 172 in 2023 and then up to 257. Is that actual people that are signed up already, or is that an estimate?
So on 2023,
One says 172 and the other's 257. So that many more have already paid a membership?
yes.
So you could still get another 100 or something, whatever. Okay.
If it continues to grow at the pace it
I know.
has, you're looking at.
Yeah, so I mean,
It's actual memberships. That's not actual people.
it's memberships. So the memberships
Yeah.
trickle in this time of year.
Uh-huh.
And I did actually notice that our membership report that I put in the controller's package each month through November has 237.
Mhm.
So we did actually bump the budget up to 257. So it does include a slight bit of an increase of 20 members.
How far in advance do you have to reserve a time to play?
Well, most of what happens is, if you're playing outdoors, they kind of communicate themselves, if I'm correct. And there's certain courts that the experienced ones all play together. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to call it that, but your 1s, 2s, 3s and 4s, your 3s and 4s play together, your 1s and 2s play together. And they kind of work that out amongst themselves. If they want to rent the courts and schedule them, that is something that may take place as we move forward with scheduling times. Yeah, because sometimes you do have a wait. They have paddles that are stacked up waiting to, it's like putting quarters on a pool table. You put the paddle on the wall and you're the next one up.
Yeah, most of the play is people just come down
Mm-hmm.
and play with who's ever there.
And they just play. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is quite busy and there is quite a wait.
You can only play for an hour or whatever.
No, you can play until you're tired.
Yep, play all day.
You're tired. If I had to speculate, as far as pickleball growth, in the limited size of the facility there, the lower tennis courts are probably used, my observation, used the least. And that would probably be a potential growth path for, I know that's probably
So we'll take it.
treading on
Right.
certain.
We'll take it as guidance. I hear you. We have looked at it. It's a sensitive issue, but there is, I hear you, yes. One thing, it'll be covered in the capital section in Public Works, but I know that you have that blue gazebo that was built several years ago. Eddie's, we have somebody that's going to come in
I believe is still going to happen. And we're going to build another gazebo, and you'll see that in the capital requests. I know they wanted that. And Debbie, do you know where you want to put it or where they want it?
Yep, it goes on the opposite side of Court 8.
And that was one of the reasons too, over there, we were looking at building more pickleball courts there. We would have had bigger issues with the wetlands and everything, but that's where they wanted this gazebo. So it all seems to fit. And we believe we have the resources and the labor coming in to build it. They did a great job last year. Kind of brings it full circle, that whole area. Anything else over there? Anything with the paddle that you can add? Nothing with the heating.
Not until we get to paddle, if we're ready for that. Are we done with pickle? Yeah.
All right. So they will increase the membership estimate.
All right. So paddle tennis, spec tennis, timeless, all underneath the same umbrella. And they have minimal amount of memberships. However, they have been growing their memberships this past year. They've done a really good job at bringing in some new people and increasing their memberships. Their drop-ins, not so much. They don't get a lot of drop-ins. They get more memberships than they do people just dropping into play. Classes and clinics, as you can see, there's not a whole lot that goes on in there, but we are hoping to be able to get some instruction for platform this year. And that would include, instructor lessons, instructor fees coming from lessons that are given. They do not have any leagues there. And again, their merchandise shows up under tennis, under their merchandise cost of goods. Most everything else is their basic. As far as class instruction, we do keep money in there, again, hoping that we will be able to have the instructor give lessons and start that in platform this year. They have increased as well. Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, we continue the increase. Yes. Flattened it. Did we flatten that one out and not make the increase for next year?
Platform members.
Yep.
Looks like there are no.
I think we left it.
Actually lowered some
Increases on the membership page.
lowered some of the fees there.
I'm looking at platform.
227, the combo membership.
Combo memberships.
And that was just based on the way we divided that percentage.
Exactly.
That's what that was. It kind of changed the percentage because as you can see for 23, it was at 40%. We've made it even all the way through. So it took it down to 33. So it's not really dropping it. It's just changing the percentage and how it's allocated for the memberships.
My sense is keeping the fees flat is sensible in that.
In this
What I'm
department.
trying to do is pull people away from tennis and pickleball to try something new. And raising the fees too much. Go against
It's
that.
going to hurt them. That's correct.
Yep.
Yep. And we certainly don't want to do that. We just want to be able to bring in new members. And even if we have more drop-in play, offering those three different sports over there is much more helpful. And they did have a gentleman the other day that came down that apparently was the influencer of the spec tennis. And he came and did a presentation type thing at the park the other day and it went really well. So they are definitely putting in the effort to get the word out there and to bring people into the facility. You want to talk about?
So let me just, before I just, I'm sorry. So,
That's okay.
your budget and finance asked about the building. With that said, before I forget and Debbie forgets, what would be included with that is also a renovation or a new warming hut for paddle tennis. They've expressed interest. We've done whatever we can to maintain it and make it comfortable. But that would be a part. I just want to make sure the paddle tennis, that would be part of any proposal going forward, right after the building.
So in case, for those that may not know, platform is a wintertime sport. So they basically, their main sport playing time is December, January, February, March timeframe. That's their main time. Although they play in the summer throughout the warm weather and stuff, that is their main playing time. So that's why the warming hut for them to come in and out when it's extremely cold and they're still playing, they kind of come in and out of the building as they're playing, and it's switching terms.
Not being familiar with Platt, why is the winter month outside this?
I don't know either.
I don't know. I thought it was very strange when I first went to racket sports, but that is their primary time to play.
Interesting.
It's a happy hour in the winter.
I can't say that has not been the case some days. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
Okay.
But there are hopes and plans to bring in new members and to continue to grow that platform spec and timeless. And the ladies do a really good job at getting the information out there. Marketing does a great job at advertising for all three sports, honestly.
So the new manager position that we're proposing,
Yes, sir.
is that individual going to take over the advertising and be doing all of that?
They will be
Is that just gonna
communicating with the advertising or the marketing department that we already have.
So they'll be making suggestions to Julie and all that, so that, okay.
Yeah.
Now, who's doing that now?
Madison and myself.
Okay.
And each department each sport has their groups
Mhm.
and they communicate with myself and with Julie about advertising for the different things that they may have going on.
Okay. Enough, what say you?
I'm fine.
Okay, and just the overall summary, you can see it, we reversed the trend from 3 years ago where racket sports was consistently losing each year more money. Right now, they're basically with this budget, we will be basically flush on the budget. Great job, Scott. Debbie, thank you very much.
Thanks, Debbie.
Thanks, Doug.
Absolutely.
Okay, Linda, what's up next?
Beach parking. Beach parking.
Beach parking, and we've, Kathleen will add some tomorrow, but the main question you're probably going to have, I believe Ruth Ann is going to come and sit right here and help Steve and myself answer the question. Ruth Ann. On that emotional intelligence. Okay, Ruth Ann, thank you. I know Ruth Ann was very busy up front. What section is the beach parking?
19.
You're going to take my binder with me. So Ruth Ann, like I said, Kathleen will be here tomorrow, but I think the biggest question and what I heard was on the pricing. So if you want to read it or you want to start off with questions at the front, whatever way BNF wants to do it.
I'll let you,
Questions are great.
I'll let you take the lead.
Oh, great. All right, how do you want to do this?
Just read down the 24 proposed.
This one? Sorry, I've never done it. Okay, so for parking revenue this year, we went with 507,855. And then there's also a parking lease for 134,760.
Okay, so the parking lease is Steve, that's the,
Yeah, that's the lease with secrets. Yeah.
How long is that lease, Steve?
We just signed it last year. Is it?
Yeah, there's two different leases. They're pretty much consistent now. They're somewhere around 5 years each.
And it's a flat amount each year?
So they go up each year, I think.
It does go up.
10 or 3%, yeah.
Just escalation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
John, on the parking lot, if that macadam goes bad, it's our responsibility to fix it.
Sorry, if the what goes bad?
The holes in the parking lot or something, it's our responsibility.
So the paving you're talking about on the ocean side, right? Yeah, so the stone and all that, that's us. Secrets has done, they've put in those lights and they do some maintenance as needed, but yeah, we're responsible for that.
Okay, expenses, payrolls, 35,487. Overtime went to 300 and payroll costs went to 5696.
Looks like,
Went up.
Yeah, why is the payroll?
And then Steve, jump in, it's the attendant at the,
Security guards and the
Yeah.
restroom staff.
the main thing, good,
I
is the
think that
restrooms.
was open this year. Is probably why you see an increase between the estimate.
it's like doubling from the estimate, right?
Right. It was over.
Yeah, so I don't think we had that in the past. Yeah, so Linda, jump in now. Go ahead. Right. We
Security,
have that in the past, the
security
attendant.
guards, where did we go?
So first, let's do the restroom.
Would it be minimum wage increases too?
Yeah. So the restroom, there was a whole thing with food and beverage and everything. And we didn't have that in the past and we added it. I'm not sure on the security guard. I didn't.
Yes,
The guards at the shack.
Attendants or whatever you want to call
Oh,
it.
so they.
Not really.
So the parking lot attendant, oh, okay.
Yeah, so right, we're saying
I
so.
was thinking
Right, and like Ruth Ann said, you have the minimum,
armed security or something.
you know, you have the minimum
Nah, they're
wage
not-
increase.
Not armed.
They have nice shirts.
It was that. It was in there.
Okay, and Ruth Ann's pointing out is the, go ahead, say it, the minimum wage increase.
So the attendants for the bathroom were there this past year, right?
Yes.
We had it in budget, but the person.
They were there on and off.
Out of this, yeah, she was about sick.
Sometimes they were there and sometimes they weren't.
Hard position to fill. Let's put it.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that, I wouldn't want to sit there all day long. That's damn sure.
So a lot of it was worked out between Ralph, myself, Kathleen, and, but it was in the budget.
So we did additional people there and wage increases, I guess.
Yeah, the wage increase is big.
Okay. Uniforms went down to 250. Contract services went to 11,000. Cleaning supplies to 3,500 and regular supplies to 250.
The palm trees aren't in here, huh?
That's because
Palm trees are not in beach parking. When the palm trees are in the budget, and you heard 80, it's in Public Works. Yeah, and it is a big number.
Okay. Repairs and maintenance this year, they put in for $1,305 for the parking lot. Other costs, insurance is $28.88, and then permits and licensings would be $200 for the year.
Compared to last year.
Okay, so this year is $581,739 versus this year would be
Last year's budget.
$507,960.
Right, so there's a big increase from last year's budget, and Ruth Ann's going to talk about that as far as the pricing and the increase in this and history. And Steve's going to give you all the details.
Thank you.
He's a support team. So Ruth Ann did work on that with us, along with Kathleen, with detailed history and our estimates.
We went extremely bold. We raised everything about 10%, being that it is popular and we usually do not have any trouble selling it. We have a lot of younger couples that are moving in and a lot of them do go for that parking only. Some of the increase and decrease that we had, let me get my papers, sorry.
How many parking spots are there?
325, I believe.
It's in the
That might
neighborhood
be
of
off.
right, three and change. How many do we sell?
A lot. Oh,
I don't want
no.
to say.
About five times that amount.
We don't want to say.
Actually, more than that. Yeah.
Do a lot of turnover.
325 spots, depending on how people park.
Right, that's a good point.
Correct.
How about across the street at Secrets?
That includes.
Yeah, there's not a lot on the other side, though.
So this year we sold
25, 20.
2,396
Oh.
parking permits.
Okay, so it's like the slips
It's,
and everything.
actually the increase is 16%, not 10.
Yeah, it's 16%.
That seems
The
like,
calculator only went
Yeah.
one.
I mean, you take last year, 215, it goes to 250, that's $35, that's 16%. It's awful high.
yeah, it is.
Okay, is that your point?
I think it is.
So give us the guidance. We want to give you the history and everything, but we'll listen. That's why we're here.
I'll hear history, but I think that this is the type of thing that, I don't know, eventually, if it gets high enough, it could cause that 2396 to start to drop off. Maybe you don't think so. I don't know.
I'm not saying anything. I'm just waiting for
An
the,
inflation rate of 7 to 8%, I mean, and we're
just
16% here.
What are you all recommending?
That, you know,
What do you recommend?
pull up my calculator.
The rest of the stuff, we're bumping up like 4, 5, 6%.
Yeah.
Like pickleballs and all that kind of stuff.
So is that what you recommend? Okay, so the strategic planning, if Linda wants to jump in, we're way higher than those percentages than we have been using.
If Budget and Finance recommends somewhere, obviously you're saying 4 and 5%, I'm hearing 5%. Duly noted, we'll adjust accordingly. Within that,
I think that's reasonable. When you look at it, you know, your costs are your attendance, I guess, and really that's it, right?
in this one, I'm not looking at my costs, to be honest with you. I'm looking at supply and demand.
So,
I'm looking at supply and demand during a key time in Ocean City. I'm not looking at my costs there as opposed to everywhere else. I'm looking at supply and demand. I am open to, and so is my team, based upon the history and everything, that's what we calculated, and we were all pretty comfortable. I got no situation adjusting to the guidance of the BNF team.
Yeah.
Well, I
225?
well, I'm just thinking, if all the other ones are in the 5% range, but, you know, if we go 5, inflation 7, 5 to 7%, I just think 16% because we can is not a good reason, in my opinion.
So,
Okay, so 5% is, no, hold on, because, okay, so because we did not come out of the Jams mount. What came out of the Jams mount was supply and demand and what during that time period in Ocean City. I got no, it should be increased. I'm fine with the guidance where I'm hearing somewhere between 4 and 7%.
I think 5%, a little over my 10 to 225 is close to 5%.
Yeah.
My sense is that if it's 250, all of a sudden, 250 is a nice, big, fat, round number. People might say, well, maybe we won't get one. I didn't use it last year. Maybe we won't get it this year. You know, you reach a tipping point at some point in time, you know, but you might lose some. I think the 5% sounds like a good number. 25.
All right, I'm in 5, 6%. All right. We'll make the change.
This is Brian, if I may. If you ask me, $250 is low for what they're getting for their money. You know, you're getting 90 days worth of parking, so it's like less than $3 a day, right? Now, the other concern I would have is that, you know, do people buy the parking assuming that they're guaranteed a space? Because to me, that seems like where, you know, the purchasers of this would have an issue if they're paying and then they're like, oh, I can't get a space. But I don't see what's wrong with 250.
You're not guaranteed, but you somehow fight like heck to get there in time enough to get a spot.
Just like everywhere else. We don't get a lot of complaints, quite honestly. I know my own family. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Brian.
No, I was just going to say that's great. If you're not getting complaints, wonderful.
We do not get a lot of complaints. I don't get them.
No, we tell them up front, it's not guaranteed, first come, first serve.
So you're letting them know then. So but yeah, I don't have a problem with 250.
Thank you, Brian. I've taken the guidance. I don't know. Are there any more Brians out there on your team?
What time's it open up so I can get there?
It's pretty safe, 12 o'clock, 12:30, and then you wait a little bit and you're getting in.
Now,
It's kind of like,
if you make it 500 for a reserve spot, now you're talking.
Let me tell you something. We'll do 20 spots if guaranteed parking. I mean, that's not a bad idea. I got to tell you.
VIP, it's a VIP space.
I'm sorry?
It's a VIP space.
I'm open to that, believe me. Give it a shot, whatever, sort of for 10. All right, look, we'll adjust down accordingly, somewhere in that range.
Okay.
Go to the board with that, see what the board says. I understand what you're saying. I'm telling you, we'll get it to it, but that's fine. I'm not out to get whatever. All right. Anything else on from Ruth Ann on that?
Nope. Good job. Ruth Ann, thank you very much. Great job.
Thanks.
Okay, all right, so you make an adjustment, whatever. Take away the budget of finance breakfast. All right, that's good feedback. Who else? Is that it? That's everybody?
That's it.
Wow. All right, so Linda, what do we have for tomorrow, or you want me to do?
We got golf and we got
aquatics.
We got Matt Orton.
Oh, Steve was going to do, you want Steve to do replacement new capital today, or you want to do it tomorrow?
Capital.
Leave it up to you. Usually I like to do it last, but that's up to you.
Yeah, let's do that last. I like.
Oh, you want to do it tomorrow? Yeah. And we will start in the morning. Lynn, do you have everybody lined up in the morning?
And
We should be done by 1 o'clock,
yeah, we should be.
1 o'clock for lunch.
And at some point in time, Steve, throw in the walkthrough.
What you forget. All right, and we'll have, we will also have that. Okay, I think tomorrow will definitely be, but done by 2. So therefore, everybody that's listening, whatever, I don't believe that there'll be a need for Friday. We'll have everything completed tomorrow. We will have requested from Budget and Finance to have Matt and I believe Stu's coming. Stu, yeah?
I think so.
Yeah, he said he would try. I'll have Kathleen, I know you all want to speak to the aquatics, and then, of course, Bob Eckelman and Justin for golf and golf maintenance, and then Steve and Linda and whatever for that. All right, we got a plan. I'm good.
Okay, good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.